Hello and welcome to Curious as Hell, a podcast about leading and growing in today's world. I'm your host, Tyler Chisholm, and I'm excited as I always am. I'm going to be honest, I'm a little bit more excited today. This is a wrap-up episode for season 1 of our first new format, new approach, all based around Curious as Hell, the book that I wrote a couple of years ago now that's really got to come alive through conversation, which is ultimately my favorite medium, talking with other humans who are on the journey. And we're going to take a very different approach today. I've got my guest, acting also as my co-host, which is new for me, Meghan Donahoe. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Very excited.
Oh my God. So today we're gonna unpack. So this is the last episode, but technically it's the one you should watch first. What we've done is we've pulled out a series of clips. We broke them into 3 different themes, which we'll walk you through. But what we want to do is we've had phenomenal conversations with leaders, I would say, from all dimensions, all walks, all perspectives, like most have been on the journey in their career, but have gone through something, a big promotion, a big change, about to early retirement, an exit, an individual who coaches, someone who went to a completely different industry that was more her passion and turned it into a leadership role. So we've got some diversity today. And we're gonna play, I don't wanna say good cop, bad cop, because I don't think that's accurate. But since Meghan has recently do you get awarded a PhD? Do you earn your PhD? You definitely earned it. You definitely earned it.
Yes, I guess.
Tell us a bit about your PhD experience, just to set the stage. They all kind of heard me rambling on for a while. I want them to get to know you.
Yes, thank you. And also, I just want to say that the curiosity you brought to the story is that the leaders that you were talking to, I think, just makes it such a beautiful journey to really pull it out. So
awesome.
I'm so excited for people to hear those conversations. Yes, PhD. I will be convocating, so that's when I'll get it. Maybe it's the proof of the paper.
Okay.
That's coming soon. But my PhD journey has been very long. It's in industrial organizational psychology, and my focus was on leadership, but specifically all the work that I've been doing with organizations, in organizations, with leaders and teams. Really, I was starting to notice this trend around people feeling really overwhelmed and tired, specifically leaders who I think I have a lot of empathy for. I've been a leader before. And trying to, understand what is going on. Why are they feeling so stressed? I think any leader you talk to could say, I could give you 10 things at least on why I'm feeling stressed. And so that was my topic was to understand what are all those things that are contributing to feeling this pressure as a leader. And also, what are things that leaders can access to energize them and to lift their well-being in the workplace?
I'd be curious, that list of 10, how many are the same on each list? Arbitrarily, of course.
Oh my! Do you really want to get into that?
No, I know. Yeah. And this is where we go off the rabbit hole.
Yes.
But I'm assuming there's a lot of similarities and consistencies.
Ish. Yes.
Ish.
Yes. Well, okay. So there wasn't a list of 10. Let's put it. There's 95. And yes.
Okay. So no, we can't get into this.
Yes.
But you get where I'm going in terms of even this. The risk of certainty was my season 1, and a lot of people kind of they looked at me a little bit. But I talked to 6 different people, including I was interviewed myself. It showed up very differently.
Yes.
But it all spun around. Man, when I thought I had have all the answers, oh my God, that backpack got real heavy.
Yes. Yeah. I think I love that metaphor to use around the backpack because it's the load that leaders are carrying. It's a bit of this pressure soup that they're in. And so for some leaders, it might be financial constraints. For other leaders, it might be the team that they're leading, and it's constantly changing and melding and meshing and evolving. And so I think on any
fluid is an understatement.
Yes, it's the soup. And
soup.
At any point you might talk to a leader and there might be something on their mind this week and it changes to next week. And so I think this is we're all kind of in this pressure cooker, and it's exhausting and overwhelming.
Well, on that high note, but the only way to approach this is to dig into it, in my opinion. It's not going to go away. The world isn't slowing down.
Nope.
Our teams aren't getting more dynamic. We're not having more variables in the workplace. We're not being asked, the concept of the working leader. Yeah. Think high level, but by the way, did you get that deliverable done? That is a pressure cooker for sure. So let's get into it. So what we're going to do, and for you as the audience at home watching along or listening along in your car, we're going to play some clips and then we're going to unpack them. And we're going to look at it from the perspective a little bit from the academic filter of what's going on here?
Yes.
What's not being said that's really showing up for this leader in terms of the way they answer a question or make a point or give advice. And I'm going to kind of look at it from my side, which is okay, it's a Tuesday morning at 10 o'clock.
Yeah.
I've got alligators in my office. What happens here? Because the best laid plans.
It's true.
I show up every day with great intentions, and then things happen.
Yeah. And I think what's so exciting about the parts that we're going to go through around how leaders have talked about their journeys is that flip side of the research, which is what can you do to, like, what are the resources that you can access and gain to help you meet the pressures that you're going to be facing. And even, it's not even, sometimes it has nothing to do to address the pressure itself, but it's really more to fill up your cup and be well so that you can meet the world where it's at.
Resilience, like however you want to show it up.
Yeah.
So watch these clips with us and show up. You might see reflections. Always keep a mirror close by, in my opinion. So is that a reflection? Is it a glimpse? Is it something you've dealt with? Is it a leader that you're working with or working for, working under, working alongside? And you might see some of those reflections in them. You might see them. Sometimes it's easier to see in others what we don't see in ourselves. But what I'm really challenging, and why I'm looking directly at you right now, if you're watching this on video, is don't be a passive participant. Join us. Listen to the leader, dig into their perspective, but put your own filter on it. And if you were in the room, what would you chime in? Get that filter going, and this will be an episode that is going to be rich. It's going to have wild perspectives from different guests, and it's going to be a little bit of your watch list of maybe which one you want to go back and dig into a little bit.
Oh, I love that.
So let's get into it. We've got it broken into 3 parts. So we're going to start with the first part. We've got 3 themes, which Meghan has curated for us, which I think capture it perfectly. Part 1, curiosity, not expertise. And the first one is, I'm not going to set up every clip, but this one I feel I need to, because I was interviewed by the incomparable Leah Sarich, and being interviewed on your own, it was a fun experience. She's a fabulous interviewer. Follow her, get to know her. Her work around town has been phenomenal. But she interviewed me and asked me for some hard questions. So we're going to start with my own perspective, my own journey. So I'll probably let you unpack this one, and I'll sit over here. So here we go. Enjoy. And I think it was a journey of discovery. And honestly, it was podcasting that opened the door for me to curiosity as that superpower.
Okay.
And I first started podcasting, maybe, the stories in the book, and I shared a little bit where I kind of got strong-armed into it by a really good friend of mine.
Yes.
And I could not be more thankful as we, close out over 500 episodes. But all of a sudden, I'm like, whoa, I'm doing a podcast and I'm interviewing who? Imposter syndrome hit me hard.
Sure.
Who am I? What am I? And I wrestled with that weeks leading up to. And then all of a sudden, and I don't even know if it was as tangible as I make it sound in the book. I'm like, wait a second, this isn't about me. It's about them. So I don't have to be the expert on their life. Mm-hmm. That's ridiculous, Tyler.
That's right.
Make them the hero.
Yeah.
And start leading and lead in with curiosity. Just ask questions. Be informed. Don't show up.
Sure.
Don't show up a blank slate.
Do a little homework.
100%. But just show up and ask questions and be curious. And I don't think it was as tangible, and nor did I refer to it as curiosity at that point, but I've always believed in kind of that hero's journey of like introduce the character, they overcome something, they resolve. But that wasn't me, that was the guest.
Right.
Did that for a couple of years and went, hey, this is kind of working out. And a couple of friends from the outside, you always have to surround yourself with people to go, hey, I really like how this curiosity thing is really working for you. And you're like,
really? What?
Okay, all right, I like that.
Yeah.
And my social media manager, she's like, Tyler, I think there's some space you can own this curiosity thing. And I was like, yeah, I'm just a podcaster, just doing the thing. And then all of a sudden I did a leadership 360 with my team. And I got some feedback. Tyler, you're jumping to the end. Tyler, you're not letting us finish. Tyler, you're showing up asking questions that you already know the answer to. You're not leaving any space. And I'm like, that would make a terrible podcast host.
I
stand behind that. I stand behind it. I'll turn over to you.
Well, first of all, I love how the clip just ends there because you're a wonderful podcast host. So what I love is the polarity that comes up in that story, because you start off by first kind of recognizing that you're feeling this sense of like imposter syndrome when you're talking to people. And so you're grinding up against perhaps this belief that you have to be the expert, and you're really facing it and questioning it. And then you're getting shown this kind of different scenario of you showing up with your team where you're, without them really saying it, you're feeling like you have to be the expert with them, and it's coming across as not being very curious. And so I think, I guess my curiosity was, where do you think that belief comes from for leaders around why we think we need to be the expert?
For me, I would blame it on Hollywood.
Okay.
Because I didn't have any formal leadership training. And I wasn't hired into a leadership role. I wasn't appointed. I started my own company and built my own role. which is, I think, I've had this conversation since, very different. There's individuals we're gonna hear on the show here in a little bit that were like recruited into a leadership role,
right,
that had also started their own companies. It's a different world. So I think that I picked it up, I watched it, I had examples growing up. I grew up in an environment where it was very rural. Like there was always someone in charge, but no one was ever the leader. There wasn't, how you felt didn't matter. Watching the Hollywood version of leadership, which is usually hard charging and command and control style. And I didn't know any different. I thought, like, put a few motivational posters on my wall, and I have to be the smartest person in the room, because I didn't really have another version or another model to support.
Yeah.
And it was never as tangible as I just made it sound now. It was just a series of picking up things until you get hit with 360 feedback from a team that I really respected. And I was kind of shit in the bed. We encounter that in my work too with leaders, where some of them come in and they have no sense of what leadership is because they've never actually seen it in action, or they've been in organizations or workplaces where they haven't really been led ever. And then we also get models of leadership in our lives, right? Like if we play sports and in school, amongst our friends. And so every little cue is telling us what it should be. There's also, I think, this journey that leaders go on when they first start, is like, before you're a leader, you're trying to be a subject matter expert, right? You're trying to be really good at something and what you do. And oftentimes when you're really good at it, that's when people notice you for leadership. And you get promoted.
And you move into this role and you feel like, okay, well, this is why I'm here, is because I know these answers to this thing. But the role has changed. And so then that's, I think, and so it's possible that maybe there's a little bit of that blending that's happening.
Does it become a series of thinking about so many leaders that I know that are they're experts, but their leadership just becomes a reflection of their personality, where their expertise was trained, it was learned, it was educated, it was certified, it was credentialed, it was examined, it was tested, it was trialed by fire. But, you're really good at making cabinets, but we're not going to give you any of that same level of training, and it's just your personality becomes your leader. And then your personality under stress often too, which is not the best version of most of us.
I mean, imagine a world where the leadership to be a leader required the same level of rigor as being a technical. Yes. Imagine.
That feels amazing, actually.
Yes, it does. I know.
But then we default to, because for me, it was my personality coming out. Like, I'm going to push hard and work hard, and that's what I've been rewarded to do. And it was a personality choice, not like a leadership. I'm going to act this way to get this outcome. Yeah. I just filled up the space with what I thought was me.
Yeah. And it's, and for so many leaders, it's with every best intent, right? You want to help the people around you.
I wasn't being malicious. I wasn't, I swear.
Exactly. I know you weren't. And all the leaders.
But it can come off like that to the people that you're impacting, right?
Of course. Yeah. There's a quote that I love. Dr. Alice Agnosticus, I'm probably saying her name wrong, but she has a wonderful presence on LinkedIn, to look her up. But she says, "Your advice is stealing my learning." Isn't that good?
Before you give feedback, are you trying to help them be a better version of themselves, or just more like you?
Right.
There's another one. Sorry, you triggered me. My friend Jenny says that.
I love that.
And as a leader, it was be more like me, because I'm the leader, so I must have the right way. So what advice? I mean, we didn't preordain this, but if I just saw this clip and I'm just at home in my earbuds listening to this, what can I take away from that clip that might make a difference for me tomorrow?
Oh, I think it's listening when you're hearing some feedback that might feel uncomfortable at first, and don't react yet. Just let it sink in. Yes. And go,
tell me more.
Yeah.
Tell me more.
And what if this is true? Would be my, what if, and sometimes it's not, right? Sometimes we get feedback from people who, think we should be a certain way and do a certain thing, and we don't have to onboard that feedback. But I always think there is a good exercise of saying, but what if this was true? What kind of person would I be?
I love if, because if gives you all kinds of room to move.
All kinds of room.
What if it was true?
And that's what you did, right? You listened to it and you noticed it. And I think this is where, sometimes we get the signals from all these different places. And so you were honing in on this very important thing around curiosity that you were getting from your podcast thinking, and then you were getting from your team.
For me, it was the contrast is what hit me. I'm like, that wouldn't even fly over here.
Right.
If not that contrast, maybe I would have been like, yeah, for sure. But if I didn't have a version of what I felt was, I like that version of myself better as well. And I used this in conversations before, it felt better.
Yeah.
Like, what do you mean with feels? I'm like, it felt better. Yeah. And it did. And when I started bringing that into my leadership, guess what? It also felt better. And I got some feedback from some trusted sources. They're like, hey, I don't know what's going on, but we're kind of liking this new, like, and one of my longtime leaders was like, I kind of like podcast Tyler showing up in meetings a little bit more.
Oh.
So they've used it too. Cause I also shopped it around. I'm a shopper arounder. I'm like, hey guys, I'm working on this. If you see it, like having those trusted people, like you can do a self-evaluation. You can take all these assessments, or you can just ask some trusted people you surround yourself with as well.
Yes. You know what I love?
They will see it.
Well, even like the what if question around, like what you just said, the podcast Tyler is kind of cool, because it's this idea of like, this is a persona maybe you're trying on. And we often tell leaders, like in the work that I do with them, is if there's something you're trying to learn, don't just not tell anybody. Like share it with your team and give it a name if you need to. And sometimes it's the reverse. It's like an alter ego that shows up when you're under stress. And we've asked leaders to kind of go, who is that alter ego and what would you call them? And one leader would be like, it's Charlie Chaplin. Because when I show up, I feel I'm like, just putting on a show and not really expressing what I want to say. And so then let the team know, like when you notice the Charlie Chaplin come out, help me. I need to know so that I can break out of it, just in the same way in the positive.
Well,
way.
I would mention there, if you want to read, if you have read the book, there's a safety word joke in here about like, what do you use that's safe in the room when, Jayson, actually, who we talked to on the show, talked about a story where he got brought in because the CFO's nickname in the offices, his alter ego was the Grim Reaper. But he actually almost came to tears. But he at the same time believed that was his job as the CFO. And Jayson, it took him about 6 months to actually kind of kill off the Grim Reaper persona.
Yeah, and have to adapt a new one.
Because you know what? Safety words don't work with a Grim Reaper.
Yes.
But anyways, I digress. But in involving your team, recruiting people in,
yes,
I guarantee they see it. They know what you're talking about.
Yes, and listen if they're telling you, and if you're noticing discomfort and some heat, that's lean into that a little bit and go, what's going on?
Okay, let's continue. Next one, I'm going to tee it up. We're going to dive right in. What was the balance, and how did you draw that balance between staying curious and staying open to what was an evolving business, but portraying that air of, I know exactly what's going on? Because with investors, with customers, they want that confidence. Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about like the early days, even till now, how that's evolved, and how did you juggle and balance those two things in that journey?
In the early days, you think that the way you're visioning it, everything is the way it's going to go. And you're kind of stuck into this like tunnel vision of this is where it's going to go. But you don't realize that along the way, as different things are happening, that it's actually not going that way. It's actually going this way. It's gearing hard to the right, and you are going straight still, thinking it's going that way, but it's not. And you kind of become into this because you're just so focused on it, really. But you become kind of, you're not seeing it, which way it's really actually going. And one of the things for me was trying to recognize that at at the early stages, trying to recognize that, as opposed to having people from the outside, like my advisors at the time or mentors telling me, whoa, hey, or employees. And at the time I had realized though that I was so stubborn that this is where it was. And it was totally going this way.
The risk of certainty was a real thing for you in the
right.
early days.
Yeah. But I was like, this is where it's going. And it wasn't. At the same time, though, if I think about it, I think that's part of the way of learning. Because, you don't know until you're in it, and then you have to learn it when you're in it. You're curious, and you got to figure it out as you're going through. And I didn't know a lot of that until it was almost too late. So I would say that a lot of those things they ended up being mistakes for me. But what makes it all better for me is the fact is I was able to fix those mistakes at the time and learn from that mistake and move on and get it back on the right
before it goes too far.
Before it went too far, right?
Oh my God, I have so many things I want to ask you about what I just saw. Tell me where does that land for you?
Well, I loved your interview with Bobbie Racette, and just how much courage she had to show, and she was very thoughtful and reflective about the journey that she was on. Like it takes a lot of courage to talk about where you were going in a direction, and all these other people were telling you something different, and then having to learn that lesson in real time with a lot riding on you. It's hard work. So I loved that interview.
Thank you. She shows up.
Yes.
That's why she's always on my guest list because I love the startup founder versus large corp. Similar, different, same, faster, more volatile. Because I think perspective makes a difference, like the world you're in as a leader.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is where there's this expertise pressure point really you can start to see is that when you're leading a very quickly growing company, you are starting probably in an area that you have expertise in, and then suddenly you're very quickly moving into leading and
Within months.
right. And so there isn't a whole lot of leadership role modeling or depth in your organization because you're at the helm. There isn't a ton of space and time to be able to explore and learn these lessons until you're then moving up to the next level, right? Going from I'm doing this work now. Oh my gosh, now I have 5 people that I'm leading, and oh geez, we have to add a level of leadership. So I'm leading leaders. That is a whole other skill set. And then suddenly I'm looking outward and I'm leading as a full CEO, and everyone else has got this. So what is demanded of you as a leader? It changes when you're in a large organization. It's so aggressive. And in a large organization, there's a lot more like space to do that, and oftentimes there's more role models there. There's people who you can see it. It's often clearer, even from an org structure lens.
You can see the stairway from the set, like the 2 weeks after you start the job. You're like, oh, I can move up this way. It's a preordained path. Where a startup world as a whole, like, who knows?
Yeah,
your odds of dying are higher than your odds of succeeding in that world, right?
Yes, it's true. And I think, a mistake we make sometimes is we think that structure or hierarchy can give us the answers, right? Which it's sort of us trying to claw in this expertise, right? It's like we have to be an expert at how this organization is created so that we all know exactly where we're going and what we're doing, which I have, the growth companies that I work with, sometimes they want to resist that. They don't want the boxes.
Well, because it kind of represents that way, and we're different, and so there's a pushback.
Yeah, and so I think it's
when does that hurt and when does that hinder?
Yeah, and maybe it's not binary, right?
Okay.
And I think we've got sometimes
that makes it so much easier.
Yes, of course.
It's black or white. No, it's not. It's not that.
It's not binary. So I mean, there's not a binary sense of like the structure is right and no structure on the other side is also right? But and instead it's that how it's the goal that structure creates for people, which is how do we clarify what everyone is expected to do and who they can go to for support, and then create spaces for listening, which I think, I don't know what Bobbie's experience was, but what it sounded like was that she had a direction she wanted to go, and she had advisors maybe telling her that she should go a different way. And I wondered how the experience would have been different if they had sat with her and really sought to understand why she felt it needed to go in this direction, and then helped create a little bit of space.
The way she made it sound is also, it was going this direction and she was kind of denying it. Like, let's say for the fun of this, if she was here a week, she would unpack it and she would. But say the business really was going here and she was going here. Right. What's the risk of a leader also being too committed to their own? Literally, it's the epitome of the risk of certainty, that example.
Yes. Yeah.
I'm sure you run into that on the regular.
Yeah. Yes. I mean,
my way, our way, my way, or the highway.
Yeah. I think then, you end up losing good people.
Yeah.
It's
usually one of the first signs.
Yes. Right. And
your high performers say, I'm off this train.
Yeah. And then I also think it's harder to change, because the deeper you get into your own way, then it's hard to see the other possibilities. And so how do you, so even I think if you're on the flip side of it and you're supporting CEOs and you're seeing that they're heading in a direction and they have blinders on, it's very narrow tunnel vision, like how do you just breathe some space into that for a moment, step out of it, and we're not there's a lot of advice monsters around. That's Michael Bungay Steiner does.
Which I love it. That's great. That's the coaching habit. If you haven't read it, read it.
Yes,
read
so
it.
good.
We're all coaches somewhere in our life, in my opinion.
Yes, and this idea that we always just want to give advice because it's a lot easier than inviting.
Doesn't it feel good too?
Yes, it feels so good. But it's so much easier than actually sitting with someone and looking them in the eyes and saying I see that you're so committed to this direction. Tell me more about that.
Unpack it for me. Give me more.
Yes.
Be curious.
Yes.
Create space.
Yes.
It's not just asking questions. It's actually creating space.
Exactly.
Someone asked me today, what's the biggest risk of curiosity? I'm like, that you think it's just asking questions.
Right.
That's a mechanism.
Yes.
What you bring to it, what you bring before and around, and how you feel when you ask the question, and what you hope to get, which is, I don't know. I'm open to anything.
Yeah.
Versus weaponizing questioning and calling it curiosity. But we'll save that for later. But I do think that's the difference. And Bobbie's world, also startup from her kitchen table, $20 ad on Kijiji, queer, Indigenous, woman in tech. It was a lonely journey.
Yes.
So having, like, how critical is it to, like, is it just trusted peers? Is it also, do you see leaders where sometimes they have to go outside their organizations because they don't feel safe looking like they don't know inside their own?
Yes. All the time. And I think it's hard because talking to people outside your organization, they don't necessarily understand your organization either.
Which sometimes can be a benefit.
Yes.
Because they're not bogged down to, like, well, yeah, I can't ask that, because they ask the silliest questions that are sometimes like, I don't know why we do it that way, actually.
Yeah. And so the risk is that they stop asking those, they stop seeking support in some ways or others. I do think that there's a bit of this myth, which is probably very connected to the expertise myth around leadership, that as leaders, we can't talk with other leaders about our challenges and what's going on. And I've even heard HR people say, we can't bring them in the room to talk about, how to have performance conversations because there's some confidentiality there. And I'm like, what? What is confidential that all leaders can't talk about in your organization?
That's bullshit.
Yes,
sorry, bullshit. I'm calling bullshit.
Call the bullshit. And I think, so many leaders believe this, and they believe that they can't talk to each other, which is why I think we're in this space of feeling very lonely as leaders.
Back to the burnout conversation we had earlier.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, let's keep moving. We've got so much to unpack today. I love it.
And so kind of getting from that point of where you believe that you have to be the person that has all the answers to thinking that maybe those people know this thing a lot better than I do. And for me, that really came true with project management in our Tundra business. When we were around 75 or 100 people, we started to hire a team to do project management of these larger jobs, and they were doing all sorts of things that I had never even heard of. And you just kind of have to trust that they really know. Well,
that's not even just knowing what's going on over there, but you brought in skill sets that were not your skill set.
Yeah. And I think when you're younger, at least I know I did, you just have this hubris that you think you know the way that things should be done inside of the company that you're leading. Yeah. But when you look back, you realize you really had no idea. You just had some opinions.
Hubris is a very good word.
I just had opinions on things of the way I thought that things should be done based on not very good information or experience. Just on, I'm like, hey, I was the leader of this company. We've always kind of done things the way that I thought they should go. So let's do it. And so I think that was, that was probably pretty frustrating for our teams
I'm curious at that moment. Did this get pointed out to you? Did you have a mirror moment or a fireside chat moment? Like, self-curiosity for me is so critical. I think I could have wrote a book about, forget about all the other types of curiosity, just get really curious of how you're showing up. How did you realize that was going on for you? Because in hindsight, it all sounds pretty clear.
Yeah, and I'm not sure that it's ever really all in one moment. I think there's moments when you realize just how smart your team is, and they did something, and they didn't do it the way that you would have done it, and it worked really well.
They got a good outcome.
Yeah.
Oh, so many layers.
Yes.
Dive in.
I love how he recognizes this idea of it's just opinions with, my limited experience in it. And it reminds me, there's a book that's recently been published, and we're going to have to put it in the show notes because I don't remember the exact name.
Okay.
Nur is the author, but he talks about beliefs, and I've been craving this a book on beliefs for a long time. And he talks about the difference between there's fact, so those things that we know to be true. There is faith, which are these strongly held convictions that we have.
Okay.
And then in the middle, there's our beliefs, which are strongly held convictions that we could possibly imagine might look different. We could change them. And I think this is kind of what I hear when I hear Iggy talking about this, is he's getting at these, we sometimes bring our opinions as though they're fact, when in fact they really just are driving us. It's our beliefs all behind it around how we think we should do these things. And those we can question those beliefs just like we can question whether a leader needs to be an expert in the same idea.
I have one of my team members who's very good at taking feedback, but also very opinionated. So it's an interesting dichotomy. He goes, Tyler, strong views, loosely held.
Yes, there you go.
And because, you're like, oh, this might be uncomfortable. I got to give him feedback. He's like, oh, no, you're right, mate. He's a Brit. So he always says, does that in. He's like, yeah, no, you're right. Yeah, okay, good, thank you.
Great.
I'm like, oh. Yeah. Sometimes there's a story that I'd even tell as a leader, mentoring or coaching someone who's got strong opinions. They're like, this is going to be, I've seen some things and I think it's really hard holding him back, or it's hurting a client, or, there's a reason.
Yeah.
It's not just me saying, be more like me. I'm working on that. And he's like, oh, no problem. But because it was the belief or my perception as an outside coach
Right.
of another leader like that who reports to me, but we're peers in the way we work. And I had to change my narrative that like, oh yeah, no, he's got great, very staunch views, but
Yeah.
at the presence of new information, he'll change his mind. And that sometimes is rare. Well, not sometimes,
Yes.
it's often rare. It
Yeah.
used to be rare for me.
Yeah, well, I
Working on
think
it.
we confuse our convictions with facts.
With facts.
Yes, and instead it's this getting to where your colleague is, where it's like, yeah, I have these strong convictions, but they can be changed, and those are my beliefs. I can change those. Yeah.
I can choose.
can
That was a powerful
choose.
day in my life as a human being who also is a leader, that like I can choose how I show up. You made me feel a certain way. Really? I wonder what it would be like if you chose to show up
Yes.
in the room or to show up as, and Iggy, I love it because this was in hindsight. And it sounds like so clear and so obvious. So what would be your perspective? You're working with a team. And let's go the up power versus down power. You're managing up.
Yes.
And you see your leader doing these types of things that Iggy has now come clean on
Right.
in a very transparent way. How would you approach that conversation when your leader's like, this is how we project manage? But meanwhile, you're PMP certified, you've got 10 years experience, you're like, this is not how to project manage.
Yes.
What advice would you give in that when the pressure cooker was turned up to high?
Ooh, I mean, I think it's back to curiosity. I think it's
Well played.
How can you? We need someone to give us a mirror on how we're being received, and I think of course there has to be a level of trust with your leader to be able to do that. But even it's just giving a mirror to say, hey, I've noticed that you. When you share a project with me and you go through all the steps, and I'm curious, like, are you feeling like I don't have all of the knowledge on this and about how to do this?
Oh my God, no. Like I
Yeah.
want to jump in right away.
Exactly.
Well,
and then
well
he says, no,
presented.
that's not as well. And then he can say, okay, because it feels a little like that. And I'm just wondering, like, what can I do to help you feel comfortable that I've got this? Because I really
that's
want to
great.
have this.
That's like reverse double entendre empowerment.
Yes, yeah. And so I think
I love it.
I mean, we're all navigating this world the best we can. And I think we need to slow it down a little. And we need to just be each other's mirrors and just notice what's going on for people. And I mean, that it's so simple. And I think we avoid it. We notice something and then it kind of flies away.
course, it's easier,
And I mean,
yeah.
I'm still working on that as a skill too, where I see someone doing something and afterwards I go, oh, I noticed that they did that. And now what I'm trying to do is vocalize in the moment when I notice it in a kind way, like a kind and loving, like, I know you have every best intent. And I'm noticing that anytime we talk about this, you seem to get a little frustrated. Like, can you tell me more about what's going on for
And
you
it's
there?
very powerful to be like, and that's just what I'm seeing from the outside. If that's not the
Yeah.
case, let me know.
Yeah.
Because like, I'm not telling you, like, don't tell me I'm frustrated. I didn't tell you. But if it's at that
Right.
point, you said something that I really think is, we need to slow down, but we're not getting any more time. So this is a go slow to
Yes.
go fast kind of scenario, in
Yeah.
my opinion. I didn't have time to do it right, but I have time to do it twice. It kind of feels like this.
Yes.
So I'm going to take a few minutes just to talk to you about something that matters.
Yeah.
But that's a moment. But
Yeah.
the amount that can save us over here
Oh my
is
gosh.
because,
Yeah.
I joke, I used to fly. And before we'd go, I used to fly VFR, which is you have to see the ground. But you draw your drift lines. So you'd take your point here and a point here, and then you'd take your little protractor and you go 10 degrees. So as long as I was inside there, I'd be like, oh, I think I'm off track. But, I could see that factory or that railroad. But in leadership, we don't always have our 10-degree drift lines.
No.
And the sooner you make your course correction, the less you get way off. Like,
Yes.
where the heck am I now? And I think those little conversations allow you to tighten your drift lines.
Yeah.
I don't have time to do that. I would argue we don't have time not to.
Yes, and so this really aligns with my PhD research in that there's a dual pathway. And so there's lots of research on the job demands resource theory. If there's any research nerds out there, they can just go look that up and they find lots of research on it. But essentially what it talks about is how demands impact how stressed we are and
Yeah.
how resources impact how stressed or well we are. And what's fascinating is I think sometimes we position these things on a teeter-totter. So we think, if my resources are high, then my demands are low, and vice versa. If my demands are high, then my
okay.
resources are low. And if I want to lower my demands, I need to just feed the resources. So what that could look
Yeah.
like is a leader's going, I have an hour. I'm supposed to go for lunch with my buddy Iggy, right?
Sure.
And but I also have this really long to-do list. I have a whole bunch of things I have to get done, and you have a choice, right? Do you spend the time on your to-do list, or do you go for lunch? And leaders are faced, I mean, this is just a very simple one, but leaders are faced with these choices every day, which is what you're referring to as this like time, right? Is like, I could sit for 15 more minutes with this person who's clearly needs to be noticed.
There's an opportunity for support here.
Yes, or I have to, jump on this next call. And so what the research would say is that it's not a teeter-totter, it's a swing. And so this idea that...
I'm glad that we're still at the playground.
Yes, we're still at the playground. We can talk about bags and like carrying stuff. But essentially, if you reduce your pressures, it will serve you in that it will reduce your stress. It will reduce strain.
Yep.
But if you increase your resources, so if you take the time to go for lunch with your friend, or if you take that extra 15 minutes to connect with that employee, it will not only reduce your stress, it will increase your well-being. And so we can do things that increase our well-being and fill up our jar without actually having to reduce the demands. Because I think we're going to drive ourselves a little bit nuts if we are constantly just trying to lower our demands, because they're always there. The pressures are always there. I don't know anyone who's gotten through their to-do list. I would like to meet them. And so if we constantly are just trying to fill a glass that keeps emptying, as opposed and like to be able to take a drink, we can't. We have to go and we have to fill the glass that doesn't have the demands in it, and just sustain ourselves, right? Go on that, the hike, the backpack analogy I always use is, when if anybody listening has kids, they'll understand, or hangs out with the kids, they'll understand that kids love rocks. And like anytime you go anywhere with them and they find a rock, it is the most precious thing they've ever found in their entire lives, and you cannot get rid of it. And so you're carrying.
Have you gone hiking with my wife?
Okay, so your wife is the same.
It's the same.
So it's all,
she loves rocks.
Loves rocks, right? So you're carrying. So if the rocks are the pressures that you have in leadership, then you're carrying these rocks, and maybe you actually can't throw them out of your bag. You have to carry them. And so to sustain yourself, right, you're not going to get rid of the rock, but you might have extra water. You might have a really good
You need better
backpack.
nutrition. You need better sleep the night before. You need
Snacks.
backpack with good support. I love it.
You have friends who can help you carry those rocks. And
you gear up for the journey at hand.
Yeah, so it's not a teeter-totter, it's a swing. And I think more leaders, if they can, need to spend time, like if they have to choose, make the choice that will fill your cup, not the one that will try to get you caught up.
Oh, I love it. It's just, that takes discipline.
It does. It's really hard. And I mean, it's always a balance, because you can't always say, well, I'm just going to go out for lunch and never do my
And that's
to-do
why
list.
I think all of this
possible.
is a practice.
Yes.
You fall off, you practice.
Yeah.
Okay, let's jump into the next one. We're listening to Lara.
It is, and
Which is
it's
great.
amazing. It's just, but then how do we flip that dialogue into being, a business with a purpose, and something that we can really focus on,
And a purpose, hoping to make money. Because unfortunately, that's where great purposes can fail.
Absolutely. And the economic impact, and being able to harness so much of the statistics that we're able to see and move forward. So again, it's really an exercise in identifying those priorities, and then also being willing to put your hand up and ask for help when you don't have no one has all the answers. And particularly with sport, it's ever changing, constantly moving, and
Because you got media, you got culture, you got there's so many
broadcast,
pieces.
league, regulations.
Things I don't even know to think about, be concerned about.
Exactly. And so I think you really, for me as I have no problem for asking for help, and you really have to be able to do that in order to continue to move the group as a whole, whether they're on the pitch or the business in behind what's happening for that game day and all of what we do, and we step onto the pitch for a match. So just really identifying that and asking for help, and knowing that it's a constant, you're just constantly learning. Luckily, I am very, very curious, and part of being an entrepreneur, and that's why I love your book, the podcast, all of it it's curiosity. And I think from a very young age, I had that.
Right out of the gate, I want to ask you, what's the difference from being a leader who delegates versus who asks for help?
Ooh, good question. I think that both are good activities.
But are different?
Yeah, I think so.
Hey, do this for me. Or like, hey, I really need your help on something. It sounds different.
Yeah.
Hey, go
Yeah,
write
it
this
does.
report. Hey, can you help me?
Yeah.
I don't know. Because it caught me. Because my earlier days, asking for help would have felt weird. I wouldn't have liked it.
Yes.
Now I don't care that much about it until I do. Like it's not 100% dealt with. Let's be clear.
Yeah. Well, and I think that I think delegating sometimes gets leaders avoid it because they worry about micromanaging, and I also do think there's a distinction there where I think micromanaging is when you're kind of telling people exactly how they should do something versus saying like,
tell them what you want done and be surprised how they do it.
Yeah, this is just what I need, and then they can go and do it. But I also think that there are some people on your team who might need a little more instruction, you might need to say, hey, I really need this report completed, and I'm delegating it to you. You are responsible for it. Versus I think sometimes you can lean into maybe other leaders or people who have more context or more expertise in something. You can say, listen, I really need help with this, and they can just take it and run. And
how critical though in that moment, I delegate something, that person that I delegated to or I asked to do something to me, to do for me, says, hey, I'm not clear. Like, talk about the safety and the requirement for, like, I love the way Lara said, like, you have to be, I'm okay to ask for help. It doesn't even, which is a bit of personality. I'm okay with that. Yeah. I don't know. We didn't get into, was there a time in her life when she wasn't? I don't know.
Yeah.
But if you ask someone for help and they go, yeah, I want to help you, but you walk out of the room and they're like, oh shit, I don't really know. It's almost like in the world of AI, it's like giving a bad prompt and being mad at what comes up.
Yes.
It's like, well, it wasn't clear.
Yeah.
But that, AI probably is better. Ask me all the silly questions that you would need to know to help me on this. As team members, I think we fail at that quite regularly.
Yeah, well, I think, and because it probably feels like there's not a lot of time to ask.
Yeah, I'll get back
it's so
to
busy. It's like, I just need
back
to do
that
this.
again.
Yeah, so we're just trying to help. We have every good intention to help each other, but we walk away feeling more confused or unclear. And I love, I work with leaders who are very thoughtful and sometimes notice after the fact, and then have this recognition of, oh, I wasn't clear, and how do I say that? How do I say, I'm learning now that I wished I was more clear here. Let's come back
that's
together.
already a win in my opinion.
Yeah.
Because that's self-awareness to go, hey, I know I just kind of threw that at you yesterday. I was busy.
Yeah.
Anything I can clarify for you?
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
And like literally even that.
Yes.
I'm open. Throw it at me.
Oh, I love that. Like it's all, and I think you said a little bit, this awareness that maybe I wasn't clear. And like, if leaders paid attention to those feelings of awareness or these moments of like, oh, I wonder if I wasn't clear, and followed up and actioned those things, oh my gosh, we would be so.
You just reminded me, there was an old Saturday Night Live skit. I think it was Rob Schneider. And he would be hanging out with a group of friends and they'd make a joke or something. And then like 5 minutes later, he would then get he would say the punchline. They'd all be like, so then he went away, built a time machine so they could go back and get his jokes timed with their comments.
Right.
So but imagine as a leader, it's like, because I don't know about you, more often than not, I'll be like, I could have done this, I could have done that. What's stopping you? You own the time machine. Hey, yesterday, crazy day. Let's schedule 15 minutes just to follow up on that project.
Yes.
We do have a time machine as a leader, like especially if we're in quote unquote control.
Yeah.
You can be a bit of a bully and go, hey, I really want to follow up with you. I know you're busy, but let me fit it into your calendar. Like I'm being a bit jokey about it, but I think sometimes we like, oh, that opportunity's passed. It hasn't.
Never. No. We can always go back.
You own the time machine. You own the time machine.
I think it's just this thing we can always try to repair. We can always try to clarify. We can always just seek to understand, ask questions, like get curious. I think, and I think Lara learned that, and that she's, I can let go and people can do things, and it might not be the way I would do it, but it's getting done, and it's. But
the reality of her situation, there was so much, there was no way she could have.
No.
Like also sometimes you just have to go, the wave is too big.
Yes.
There's too many sticks to pile. There's too many bricks to carry. I have to. What is it? Go fast, go by yourself, go. You want to go further, go with other people.
Yeah.
There's just two different disciplines to that.
Yes.
But back to, we got promoted because of our technical expertise, which is usually often because we went really fast and did a good job.
Yes.
Often with our own two hands, two eyes, two mouths, or 2 ears, all that.
Yeah. I love conversations when, especially in spaces where you feel like you have a lot on the plate, where you really start to hone in on like, what are our must-haves, and helping our team really focus on it. Because I think that is where maybe leaders, without, they don't communicate necessarily what is the most important thing that's needed. And so then what happens, right? It's so easy to do because we know what it is. We don't, it's a little bit maybe unconscious for us, but we know what it
discipline.
is. Yeah. And so to be able to actually articulate it. And so, but the person we're giving the work to, they're going to have their own sense of priorities or concerns that maybe they have to do it exactly right, the whole thing, when maybe we've only got this much time. It's these 3 things in this project that have to get
more
done.
frequent touch bases. Now we're getting into just like good kind of project health.
Yes,
What would you say to somebody who watched that clip and go, I'm just not like that. That's not who I am as a leader. It's not my personality. I don't ask for help. I'm actually not that curious. And I don't know if I need to be. I'm pushing into weird territory because if you don't want to change, then who am I to, that's not my job and that's fine.
Yeah.
But if someone's like, I struggle with that and I get it, what can I start doing?
Oof. Well, I would ask them what kind of leader they want to be first is what would be my question. And
Back
then
to that persona role model,
yes,
like
and then
what
connect
this new like version of you. What should we call it?
Yes, yeah. There's a clip.
What should we call it? What should we call it?
Yeah, a clip here. But I think I would ask, what kind of leader do you want to be, and then how can we live that into the fullest value? Because there's many different ways to look at it.
Okay.
It's maybe not about asking for help, but it's about like, let's not steal people's learning. Like if you
that's so powerful.
Yeah, if you really believe in coaching people, then by not giving them the chance to do this work, you're actually not letting them grow and learn.
But if I just did it myself, it'd be done faster and better.
Yeah, maybe it would be.
But then you're always getting to do it yourself.
Yes, then you're always going to do it yourself. Then when are you going to have time to become this leader that you want to be, to do this stuff?
Yeah.
And so I think
there's always an opportunity cost.
Yeah. It's scary if being an expert is part of our identity. It's hard. That's a hard thing to let go of. And I think that we do that without intention. We kind of move through it and we learn and we grow. And what would it look like to become a little bit more intentional with that? To say, okay, before I achieved success because I really knew this stuff. And now I am leading people. So what does achieving success look like for me there? And what do I need to let go of?
I'm putting you super on the spot here. Just so you know. I'm driving up a cloud trail and there's a billboard about leadership. Definition, a position, a statement. What would it say?
Oh my gosh. I feel like this is
You can get back to me if you want.
Pebble's marketing strategy, trying to figure it out. I don't know. The one thing that is coming to mind is, and it's probably not exactly like, I'm sure we could workshop the words, but it would be that your leadership is only as good as the interior condition of the leader.
I like it.
Yeah, and it's this idea of like you have to know yourself and be true to yourself in order to give more of yourself to the world.
Every one of those clips had a huge element of that.
Yes.
And often was in hindsight. But now I'm using it in real time.
Yeah.
Like I learned it, a version of me before didn't have it. I realized it through a series, like you said, it was a passage of time and a series of things to all of a sudden go, oh my God, I must have really annoyed my team.
Yes. Yes.
You don't always say that the next day.
No.
But if you're not, I guarantee as a leader, you've annoyed your team somewhere.
Yes. The world is teaching you. And
100%.
and I think it's just
okay. That's it. That was an on-the-spot billboard test. So good job.
Maybe it is. The world is teaching you.
We're going to move into the second section, which is relational and co-created. Which I love. Co-creation is something I've embraced, and the more I do it as a leader, that I personally believe, well, here we are co-creating.
Yes, we
so
are.
let's dive right into it.
Yeah.
The thing that was amazing, and with the team. So like I shared, I was telling them, okay, I'm going in, and they're like, good luck, Jen, and like fortifying me in that way. And then I think it was on my second interview.
If you didn't win, were some of them going to mutiny? Like
Yeah.
this is a whole thing going on. I like this.
Things like this, right? But then I came
awesome.
back and they created, Napoleon Dynamite and Vote for Pedro.
I do.
So
That's funny, actually.
They created Vote for Jen.
That's such a sign of a great team. That's awesome.
Stickers, and they
It
put
brings a
this
tear to my eyes as a
big
leader.
thing.
That's awesome.
Oh my God, I was totally crying. And
Of course.
they all were wearing Vote for Jen when I came back from that. And I was just like, this is the best moment of my career
No matter what happens, right there was awesome.
to date, even if I don't get this job. Like it was incredible. And I think that's just an example of when you share your vulnerability,
Yeah.
you get it back.
You're
Like you
human.
get it back in spades, right? Like that. I will never, like, I will remember that the rest of my life in a way that,
Vote for Pedro.
right? It's like, it's so good.
It's so good. But it's such a testament to like what's the value of investing in your team? What's the value of relational curiosity, actually being curious about them as humans?
Yeah.
What's the value of being honest? I love that story. Oh my God. Like
So
that doesn't put, if that doesn't bring a little tear or maybe some shivers up your spine, but being co-creating relational, being vulnerable, being real, being authentic, and having your team in your corner.
Yeah, that to me is the epitome of being able to measure your impact on how a team feels about
Unprompted,
you as a leader.
unsolicited.
Oh,
and for
yes.
everyone, just, please go and listen to the episode. But Jen was interim CEO for like 6 months
Yeah.
from a COO position and then became CEO. So that was the part of that story that isn't super clear,
Yes.
maybe if you don't catch it. But can you imagine like the vote for Pedro, even if you haven't seen it, you'll Google it, you'll
Yeah.
get it. But like, wow.
Yes. Well,
wow.
Because what that had to mean was that her team knew she wanted this job
Yeah.
and knew that she was nervous about it and, wanted to show some support, which means that she had deep trust with them about
The equity
what
that she
wanted.
had built with that group of people, like there's no engagement survey required
No.
to do that.
It's your social capital. Like it's really, you've built
Like
this.
through the roof.
Yes. Yeah. Which Jayson talks about that in your conversation too.
Yeah, we'll
I
get to
think
that,
so.
yeah.
I mean, I guess to me, this moving from part one, which is like you have to let go of your expertise.
Yep.
So when you let go of your expertise, then the question is always like, well, what do I have? And I think it's
Oh, nice.
what you have is the people around you. It's everybody who wants to be in it together to do this cool thing. And I think, what it sounds like a little bit is her team recognized that, they were voting for her, right? Vote for Jen. And they also recognized that by having her, they were all winning because they were in it
100%,
together.
100%.
And I think we sometimes as leaders, we think that if we're so embedded in this identity of being the expert, it's a very lonely space. When we let that go, we move into a space of like, whoa, this actually is a collective and we can do so much more as a collective.
Oh, I love it. By her winning, they win.
Yes.
And like no ivory tower, we're all in it together. She was relatable. She was human. They were in her corner. They were supporting her.
Yes.
Which I would take a wild guess that in her role as COO, she was probably equally as supportive to them.
yeah.
Like that's also coming right back at you, right?
Yeah. And I think, I don't know what she's like as a leader. We'd have to ask the people who work
We would.
for her
We would.
around their day-to-day experience.
I've got a pretty
with her.
good,
Yes,
I've got
I
a pretty
think so.
good, like sign, like
Yes.
neon flashing sign.
Yeah, that's the next podcast is us talking to all the direct reports of these leaders to hear what they have to
Let's
say.
find out what's really going on.
Yes. And it sounds like, though, like she obviously invested a lot of time to get to know these people that they would have this amount of cheering her on and wanting to see her succeed.
And if this is a team that comes under fire, this is a team I'm going to have confidence is going to pull through because they're going to pull together. When the quote unquote bullets start flying, which they do in business all the time. Like there's always low grade little explosions going on all the
Yes.
time. This team is going to be able to handle it because they trust the person next to them and they trust the person above them and below them.
Yes.
It's significant. Like
Yeah.
when it touches on one of my pet peeves of bolting a bunch of people together, working them to the ground and calling it a high performance team. That has the makings of a high performance team.
Yes. Yeah. They're holding
At its
each other.
foundation. What they
Yes.
do in their work, I don't even know about that yet.
Right.
But I'm going to pick them to go out on this trip together, on this road trip of business with, because they will pull together like that.
Yes, yeah, they have to hold each other. And I think what we sometimes confuse this with is we think, oh well, she must be doing it all right. And I know that like there are always things that we're going to make these missteps.
Yeah.
But you can't go wrong with building trust with people. It's my PhD supervisor always used to say, it was like an RRSP of trust. And so every time you do anything with someone, you're putting money in. And sometimes you have to withdraw it, maybe because it's a mistake you've made or, we're in a
100%.
difficult time that you can't share something with people. You're going to have to withdraw. But if you can constantly add to it, then it becomes...
Well,
Yeah.
to me, you're always building the equity for when
Yeah.
stuff hits the fan, right?
Yeah.
The rainy day, the RSP. I like that. a
Yeah,
lot.
or making a mistake, because we all do, right? Or we have our own little things, our alter egos come up.
Oh, yes, they do.
Yes, they
All
do.
right, let's jump into the next one.
Like I had a Teams call and I hopped on it, and they said, Lara, no, like you go prep, just like be present and don't worry about it. We got this. And so, constantly wanting to
awesome.
to chime in and be part of things, but more so from a perspective where we're always looking to gain efficiencies. How can we, lessen the emails or the Teams messages, or what is that each decision maker can take on their own? And you really have to build trust and know that we each have one another's back. And I think the more that you can let go, and my experience in business is that when I do that and when I let go, things might not always be perfect, but they actually move forward a lot faster in a positive way.
Was there ever in your journey a moment where you had to have that little fireside chat with yourself and like stop being the bottleneck, stop being, and also sometimes our value gets wrapped up in that. Most of us get rewarded in the early part of our careers by how many bricks we can pile.
For sure.
Versus how many bricks we can make sure get piled. That's a weird metaphor, but that was my loose construction metaphor. Was there ever a point where you had that realization yourself of like, my success is wrapped up in what happens, not me actually having to do it?
For sure. Yeah, you do. I think there have been several moments, and they're ones that, they resonate. And whether it's showing up to do a talk and realizing like so many people have been part of putting something together that I didn't have to lay hands on at all, or walking down to the front of the stadium with my back to the pitch and looking up at all of the fans and really taking it all in and like realizing like, wow, like this team pulled this off.
Oh, like what a moment. Like literally the grandstand moment of like,
yeah. Yeah. Well, and I love how she's taking these pauses to appreciate the collective around her, which sometimes we forget. And I think we constantly have to remind ourselves of this. Oh, there's other people around here who could also take this or who also have this, right? It's hard, right? Because especially when we want to take care of each other, we might go, I'm going to take this so that I don't have to burden you. But it kind of goes back to, are you taking away their learning, and are you taking away the opportunity for them to contribute to collective success?
Back to my reference earlier, just a little bit around the Hollywood version of leadership, but I think we do it across all of our society. We celebritize the individual.
Yes.
Well, clearly Steve Jobs is responsible for all those things solely and personally and individually.
Right.
You read a book I was reading Changemakers, and it was talking about just the evolution of AI all the way back to the Turing machine, and the Turing test and World War II, and that every iteration that we have today has been built on. Right. But our society, we love to point to an individual and hero worship.
Yes.
How dangerous is that as a leader when you're like, well, I see all these other people being hero worshipped. They must be doing it all themselves.
Yeah.
It must be them. Meanwhile, there's a whole bunch of people making it happen. Like, how much do you encounter that in some of the work you do, of just a belief structure that maybe needs to be kicked out the back door?
Oh my gosh, yes. Yeah, I mean, I think I'd be the first to not love an award show. And when I see leaders...
The first to not love an award show. Yeah, I love it.
And also, when I see leaders on stage, it is always, and mostly because of the work and the research I've done on leadership in general, is... when a leader is on stage talking about their leadership, and it's always the good stories usually, and or the hard stories that they pulled through.
I want them to tell the shitty stories.
Yes, yeah.
I want to hear about the train wrecks.
And my first question is always, I wonder what their team would say about them as a leader.
Yeah.
Because I think it's a bit of leadership is in the eye of the beholder. Like if you, you have to, and not every leader is good for every follower, and vice versa. And sometimes and so I think this is where, to me, it's peeling back those layers and going like, how can we just be good humans to each other and help each other move through it? But something that Lara had said that reminded me is we have to let each other know that we have each other's back and that we trust each other. And I think sometimes, and I know because I get a wonderful opportunity to work with Lara and her team, that
that's right, amazing.
Yeah, we have instances or moments that we put aside for the team, not just to say I have your back, but to show it and talk about it. And so this is the same thing where you hear leaders say, well, my door is always open. It's like, cool, your door is always open. Does anybody come in it? Right? Probably not, right? To me, it's a bit of a cop-out. Like leaders... I'm
here to help. Gotta go.
Yes, I'm
gotta
here
go.
to help.
Gotta go.
Anything you have, just come talk to me, right? Like you have to show people that that's what you mean, which means that, maybe your door is open because you are exiting out of it to go talk to people, as opposed to waiting for them to come to you.
But I tell people to come talk to me. I told them my door was open. I did the thing.
Yes.
What do you want me to do?
Yeah. Exactly. Or here, I asked my team a question.
I want you to be a leader.
Yeah. Or I was in the team meeting and you told me I should ask, what should we do differently? And nobody said anything. I was like, well, you have to ask again and again and again. And then when someone gives you just the tiniest nugget of something to do differently, you do it and you say, we tried this. What else should we do differently? And you have to show it. You have to. And that's the only way you get the collective energy.
And it does feel like the 10 to 1. You got to do 10 of those for every one where you didn't ask and you didn't listen.
Yeah.
And you shot it down.
Yeah.
When the feedback made you uncomfortable.
Yes. Yeah. There's a...
Tell me more. Tell me more about this thing that's making me want to react.
Yeah, and create some space, right? So I think sometimes we ask a person a question that might be hard and they're really thinking about it and we're uncomfortable with the silence of them thinking. So we just jump in and we say, okay, well just, and I'm guilty of that all the time too. But it's hard, right? Because it feels uncomfortable, but I've started to just count to 10 in my head so I can chill out. You do something like that too, right?
I do. I have the stately sigh. That's what I'm working on right now. I'm like, because indulgent Tyler is quick.
Yeah.
Stately Tyler. So I'm working on it.
Some more
I'm working on it.
Tyler ego.
I'm trying to, 100%
so
trying to
good.
get it under control. And it's great. The next clip was with someone who also is a friend of mine who pauses. Mm-hmm. And I had to learn because I also really value what he's going to say next. Mm-hmm. So there is a share, like I appreciate it. But if I jumped in every time he paused, he would never get to speak. So sometimes you also have those people in your life where you're like, my wife watched this clip or the next one, and she said, "Oh wow, that's your cadence changes."
Yeah.
Because his form of communication has pauses.
Yeah.
When I think about my team, there's some other instances like that.
Yeah.
But there's ever that once in a while where you're like, oh, like it hits you and you're like, oh, okay, take note. I try to be very observant, as you know this about me, and try to catch it. And I'm like, I feel like jumping in, but when I don't, something better happens.
Yes.
Okay, note that. Note. No,
Yeah.
write that down. Write that down in your secret notes of like, I acted a different way and something better happened.
Yes.
And it's so funny. I'm going to play this next clip with my friend Jayson, but I've got to practice that with him to match his communication style because I value the outcome we create together.
Yes.
If I wasn't there for it, we would have never got there, which is so similar to the leadership experience.
Yeah, it's just that slowing it down.
So it became so real when I saw who was up next on the clips.
He does a great job of slowing things down.
He does. Slows me right down. All right, let's dive in.
You don't need to just change the structure of the business to have a flat organization. The best leaders run in a very flat format where it's collaborative, it's thought partnering.
Yep.
And that's it.
Really
Invite
strong
them in.
relational
That's
opportunities.
It's driven by relational. Here's the piece. You said the relational driver. It all comes down to equity. The amount of equity I have with you means I can challenge you like no one else. We create a level of accountability that exists nowhere else, that the truth telling happens here like nowhere else, all based on what? The amount of relational equity we have. And it just continues to blow me away how much time, effort is wasted on this engagement problem. When I'll tell you what.
We're measuring the wrong thing.
You're measuring the wrong thing. You need to start measuring your ability to create relationship equity inside the business, because that we know what the data says. Your relationship with your manager and the people in your org
It's the number one driver.
is going to drive it.
Yeah.
So why are we trying to gamify or create these complex issues when the raging torrent of pace and our addiction to the transactions of the business are what's infecting the situation that we're trying to solve?
Why do you think that is?
Habit. We're comfortable with transactions.
Yes.
We're
Because they're
comfortable.
out here. They're out here.
We're comfortable with spreadsheets. That's it.
Well, let me organize this stack of books. It's very safe.
That's it.
Yeah.
But if I'm a leader and I want to ask one of the simplest questions that can blow the roof off your vision, that's to sit down with Tyler, one of my teammates, and go, Tyler, what's going to make this the best year of your professional career?
Ooh, mic drop.
Yes, so good. Good to clip there. Yeah.
What's your well, first of all, engagement surveys.
Yes.
Waste of time. Do you agree? Jayson definitely didn't leave any gray area for his opinion on engagement surveys.
Yeah. I mean, I think what I heard from him, and I completely agree, is that I think they sometimes focus on us on the wrong thing. Because I do, and actually there are, like, if you look at some of the Gallup things like that, I have a best friend at work. It's driving, they have said time and time again, if you have a relationship at work that with somebody that you really trust, that you have high equity, like from Jason's word, around that, then you will be more committed to the organization, and same with and so there's another question on Gallup's engagement survey that is about your leader and how your relationship and the things you get to do with your leader. So I think it depends what kind of engagement survey you're talking about.
Yeah, that's fair.
I 100%.
Not all surveys are created equal.
Yes. When I think that where we've been helping teams rethink gathering data is this concept that, so maybe I'll start by saying that every relationship we have it's fluid, right? It's not, we don't just fall in love and then we're here at this with our spouse or partner, right? And we're here all the time at this peak. There's all these other layers to the relationships we have with people. And so I think sometimes if we think about it we're just hiking a mountain until we get to the peak and then we just stay there forever, it's the wrong way to think about that. Just that's the wrong way to think about the way our team is in our organization, or where our organization is. It's a living organism. And so I often say to leaders is if you're doing an engagement survey or any kind of survey with the sole goal of getting 100% and driving to try to get 100% and driving yourself a little nuts to go, how can we do this 100%? You've missed the point. You've totally missed the point. Because the engagement survey or whatever data you're collecting is to tell you it's to guide you on where you have to nurture more within your team. And it's just, to me, it's the compass. It provides that guide. And then you infuse it with taking that time to build that relational trust with people, or, taking the time to communicate better so they can trust you more, whatever that is. And so to me, that's what a survey does, is it tells you where to nurture the if you think about it like an ecosystem as opposed to
Should it be an equity
blueprint.
survey? Should we just change it?
You could. I don't Yes, I think
I'm not going to hold you to it.
Yeah, to me,
I'm
it's a pulse. I love,
Okay.
There's a leader we work with who talks about it as a drum beat. And I love it. It's just this constant.
Which is a cadence and a rhythm, which is more accurate.
The
right?
cadence and a rhythm and checking in. That's all it is.
Music
And so,
does this. That's why we get pulled into it, right?
Yeah. So we do it wrong. I actually think at large organizations, you could very easily do it in meetings. What we do all the time is at the beginning of a meeting if it's a 2-hour meeting, if it's an hour-long meeting, we always start with a word cloud using a free polling tool to say, how are you walking in thinking and feeling? Or what are you feeling as you're walking in today? We get a word cloud. Usually it's busy, tired. And we always say that the reason we do this is
One word check-in.
Yeah, one word check-in. So you can do that even at a round table.
Yeah.
And the reason we do it for 2 reasons, we always say this every time, is the first is to understand where the room is at, how people are feeling. And the second is to help you understand that as we go through these conversations, everybody is coming in with maybe a slightly different feeling or frame of mind, and you have to offer grace.
Everyone's climbing their own mountain, right?
Yes, offer some grace. And so you may be super excited about this meeting, and the person next to you is feeling exhausted and tired because they were up all night because their kid was sick or something. And so they're not matching your level of enthusiasm.
Yeah.
You give them grace. And then at the end of the meeting, you ask the exact same thing. That is a pulse. That is a check. That is something that would just as easily work as an engagement survey.
I'm going to quote my wife here. Early in our relationship, she'd be like, Tyler, just because I'm not acting like you doesn't mean anything's wrong.
Yes. Ooh.
I don't hear that anymore because I think I've dropped everything.
Yes.
What's happening with you?
Right.
Hey,
Yeah,
just because I'm not acting like you. A friend of mine going on hikes.
Yeah.
She'd always do a headspace check. That was the thing. Because you're the first kind of half mile into the hike, you're today's not the day, or there's always who wants to hike? Who wants the hike to be over? Who wants it to be longer? Where's everybody's head at?
Yeah.
Eventually we did that in a meeting because the one word check in, but I do like the headspace check.
Yeah.
Because it is what you're doing is you're laying the foundation for equity.
Right. Yes. Yeah. To build
And
that
that
trust.
flat, that collaboration, that hey, this doesn't, you seem off.
Yes.
I'm not telling you you're off. I'm asking what's
Yes,
going on.
yeah.
Because it's not labeling and it's not oh, what's wrong with you? You acted a certain way, or hey, you should act differently. You should F up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The percentage of people that have calmed down once being told to calm down, I think is 0.
Yeah.
Creating space, being curious and having enough trust, but also just letting it be whatever it is.
Yeah.
Not trying to micromanage it.
That's true. It reminds me of kind of in middle of the pandemic, some of the researchers talking about what was going on for people. And I remember, I think it was
What a
Adam
crazy
Grant.
time.
Oh my gosh, I know. And it's hard to believe. But Adam Grant was talking about how what we were missing by working from home and just logging into meetings after meeting after meeting was the context that we would get about people
Yeah.
when we would see them in person. And so and we took it for granted, I think, about how important it was, where you see a colleague kind of rushing into the office for a meeting. They don't have to say a word to you. You know that maybe they're feeling a little frazzled.
Versus the moment their screen comes on, you have no idea what happened before.
Exactly. So really it was this idea of like, I always thought that the pandemic for many leaders just put a spotlight on some of their blind spots as a leader that they took for granted because they were in person. And it required us to remember what was important. And so even I think you get into a meeting with a group of people, even if you're in person, taking that moment to just provide some context about
equity.
how people are walking in is it's a way to build trust and equity. And it's a way to just create a little bit of grace for however people need to show up that day.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah. Don't you and Adam Grant share a similar PhD?
Yes. Yeah. He's
So
like,
I'd be remiss if I hadn't brought that up.
Yes, he's the poster child.
Enrollment into your program went up when everyone
so,
realized
yes.
what it was. That's amazing.
Before he
puts out some awesome content.
Yeah.
It's punchy. It makes you think. It's right up my alley.
Yes,
So I think
and
maybe that's probably why you and I get along so well. You say things that make me go, I must ponder this thing that made me say it.
And he's so brilliant. I mean, he really can list off the research like that. It's not quite as much of a skill.
Has some
for me.
superpowers. Yeah.
Yes. But he did. I remember even in grad school, they used to tell us like how we explained to people what IO psychology was, and now I feel like I don't have to do that anymore because he's just
nice.
famous.
Which then kind of makes the market bigger and better for everybody.
Yeah,
I love it. I
for
felt I was remiss if I didn't touch it out. All right, let's jump into the next clip. The more I spend time in leadership, the more I see my role as coaching and helping elevate the people around.
Yeah.
Helping and elevating the people around me. Coach seems like the appropriate word to use in that setting.
Yeah.
Which usually means being curious about them, asking more questions.
Yeah.
Like, hey, like, what if this wasn't as serious as we think it is? I'm not saying you're wrong, but let's just play around for a minute. I've gotten better at that with time when I started to embrace it versus like, let me solve your problem for you.
Yeah.
That was not coaching, and that was not also successful for me.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I think more so than ever now, I feel I am that the making better leaders is my job.
Yes.
Like more so than I did.
I tend to agree. So
more so than I did as COO or in prior roles. Yeah.
Do you think all CEOs share that? Or how widely is it or isn't shared? Not do all think. That was a binary question.
Yeah.
That was a bad way to ask it.
Not all of them. No, I think, I'd be curious to know how your relationships changed with people when you started to view your job as coaching them.
They became safer.
Tell me more.
Less directive, more curious, more what's going on for you versus be more like this. Back to my feedback comment from earlier, it became more about, okay, what do I see for you versus just do it the way I want. Because that was like, I know the best way because I'm the leader, right?
Right.
Because I built a company that made me the leader, so then therefore I was the smartest person here.
Yeah.
What a silly, ridiculous thing to say. But for a long time, I believed it. I believed it subconsciously, but I acted it out.
Yes.
When I moved to more of a coaching role, I was more curious. I was more the podcast host.
Yeah.
What's going on with you? Like, hey, like I see this thing. It seemed like you got a lot on your plate. Walk me through what's happening here.
Yeah.
And like work. Not I want to help you. It's like walk me through, and then we'll see where I can support or where I can't. Can I remove friction? It just changed the way I showed up, and my feeling and my sense and the outcomes I saw were the relationships got deeper. But the performance increased, like because this is still about work. This wasn't curious for the sake of curiosity for life, which I think is a table stake.
Yeah.
But ultimately, things need to happen, and we need to move forward. There's
Right.
always time. There's always financial pressure. There's every kind of pressure you can think of.
Yeah.
I saw better outcomes, and better people stuck around for longer. The tenure on my team went up. Like all the things that I can measure that I thought were worth measuring improved.
Yeah.
And I'm going to say selfishly, I enjoyed it more.
Yeah.
Let's not knock that.
Yeah.
It feels good.
It feels
It felt-
good when you unleash other
it
people's
felt-
potential.
It felt good.
Yeah, and you get to see them grow into ways you never, and maybe even they never imagined. I think where the trap that I see some leaders fall into is they think they're coaching, but they're actually mentoring or giving advice.
Oh, okay.
And they're in a space where they're still sitting in that expert seat.
Okay.
And they're still and there's it comes again from a very genuine desire to share their learning and provide some ideas, but it can be a trap sometimes when you get into this expert seat. So when you ask me that question is where do you see them go wrong, is that they have every intention to want to share their knowledge, but sometimes like everybody is on their own journey. And so I remember like supporting organizations with mentoring programs and teaching mentors how to connect with mentees. And the biggest thing was like, get good at sharing your stories and asking good questions, because you're never going to be able to create and package a lesson to give to somebody.
Yeah. Versus what they take from what you shared.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so I think
don't rob
that's
them
the
of their
flip.
learning.
Yeah, don't rob them of their learning.
There's
And
some themes that are coming up in this one that we're going to unpack later. But
the next.
no, I like that.
Yeah, so I think it's so that would be where I would say like I love the temperature. The check is that if you're having an impact as a good coach for people, it's all the things you experienced.
And coach versus mentor, and I even I caught myself there. Like, I'm a coach because I said I was. The world's full of people saying they're coaches,
Yes,
which I want to be very. And then I run to people like Jayson, who's been coaching for 20 years.
Yeah.
And you listen to him talk, you're like, okay, I believe that that you would be an effective coach.
Yes.
Mentor versus coach, how would you define them just at face value?
I'm probably a little bit more like fluid about that. Like,
Okay.
I think, yes, there's the designation of a coach,
Yes, of
which I
course.
think is, I have much respect for that profession. And then there's the, like, us showing up as leaders every day to support our people
Okay.
and to guide them. So I guess, we could probably spend a long time debating the differences in the. I think the thing is the impact, the best impact you can have is when you create space for people to learn, and it doesn't necessarily start with your advice or your.
Yeah, that's fair.
Right.
To me, it's in service of.
Yes.
And mentorship, coaching, advice, getting out of the way. Like, if I'm in service of them versus thinking they're all in service of me,
Yeah.
that just changes it for me. And
Yeah.
I think that's something I read The Servant years ago. It's a great little book. There's a lot of religious undertones, but it's still a really good book. If sometimes people read it and go, whoa, I didn't know it was gonna be like, I'm like, the lesson is great. And you take it for that,
Yes.
just as a caveat of anyone who's read it. But I was like, again, back to it's not about me.
Yes.
It's not about me.
you.
And coaching and mentorship is, I think, very fluid for me as well. I
Yeah.
say the word coaching, but I don't.
Yeah,
It's not
about
always
you.
what I mean.
Yes. And
It's not about me is the point.
I love that. And I also think that we talk a lot, a shift that I think we will start to see more of is this idea of legacy, where I hear leaders talk a lot about, I want to leave a legacy.
Interesting.
And what that means, like what I've
Yeah.
seen often, is that it's a leader kind of holding on to an organization that they need to leave, but they're holding on because they want to get this thing in place and make sure this is all ready to go. And and sort of tie the bow on it. And I think so this view that like my direct, like touch on these things is my legacy needs to be flipped. And that instead, it's my legacy is actually, it's the trickled, like it's what it's the essence that I've left behind maybe, right? It's the trickle down I've had through the people I've connected with and supported. And so, you hear about people, right? Like, and so I think so that to me is a more enduring legacy than this idea of this I have touched. And this is my legacy, because we know that those things change all the time, right? Like you put in a system and you wanted to get it just ready to go, but then in 3 years, they're going to have to change it anyways. So
I had a conversation yesterday. You're triggering me on something.
Cool.
We just hired an operations manager for our digital team, and she comes from two very well recognized, very large organizations that just do digital pure play. Yeah. So she's worked in bigger environments. That's why we brought her in. Yeah. She had burnout, took a year off. So she's coming and she's like, I am here. I'm a builder. I'm ready to build. She's kind of got where she is in her career. And she was walking me through, she's like, I built this like massive strategy. Here's what we're going to do. And she goes, what I'm really been observing, she's been here for 6 weeks. She's like, I want to caveat this with my 6 weeks, because she goes, I know you have processes in place, but she goes, all processes leave a trace. So she goes, I'm seeing traces of processes of days gone by, but they're here for a reason. And she goes, I'm seeing them work. So she says, I'm trying to find all the traces of past processes and procedures and identities so I don't trip over them while I'm trying to make it better. But her concept of leaving a trace, I thought that was so interesting. I'd never heard anyone say it like that.
I love it.
And she's like, I'm 5 weeks in. I respect that something came before me, but sometimes there's a trace of something and I have no idea where it came from.
Yes.
And she goes, I've seen it not work, but it seems to be working here. So what's going on?
Yes.
And she kept using the term, which was very respectful. And like, you're 5 weeks in and you're like, here's how we should do everything, which is what we asked for.
Yeah.
But was the trace of past leaders, of past ideas, of people believing they were doing the right thing. And that what resonated with me when you talked about it. I'm still processing it because I listened to her do an hour and a half presentation yesterday, and she kept referencing it. And it was so respectful.
Yes.
But yet everything's still up for review.
Yeah.
It was great. And as leaders, we leave a trace.
That's a wonderful way of, I love that.
So fun.
Yeah, because you really do, especially as things change quickly, you have to honor the past, and you have to, like, because people have been through that and they've been part of it. And right. And so there's, I think, lots of spaces to honor the past. And and as we get into this third part, I know like something will come up around nesting practices, which
Ooh,
is
okay.
Something new
All
I've
right.
learned.
Well, we'll pause. We're going to get into, we'll pause that idea. We're not pausing the
Yes.
show.
No.
Thanks for being on the journey so far. We're going to dive in. We're keeping this rolling because there's so much content and you and I can talk for days.
Yes, we do.
So how do we balance all that out? Growth through reflection, part 3. So this is the third act of our series of 4. Let's dive right in. It's so easy to say and put a sticker on your fridge.
Yeah.
It's hard to do.
So what I would personally do that I've been doing for years is I just go to a coffee shop. Like there's a Starbucks close to where I lived. We're in the country now, so not anything too close. But there was a Starbucks. It was
Sometimes a little windshield time doesn't hurt either.
Yeah, and
Go for a
Starbucks
drive.
was a 20-minute walk from my house, and so I would I would book. I would just call it a think day, which was usually an afternoon or a morning. And
But you were deliberate about it, which
I was deliberate about it. I tried to realistically probably happen once or twice a month to do that. And I would go with specific problems that I wanted to solve, and I would write them on a piece of paper, just on a white sheet of paper. I would kind of write the problem, or if there were some articles that that were kind of related to that, I would print those off. And then there was also, some just some more kind of introspective, longer term thinking exercises.
Okay.
And there's a million of them on the internet.
There is.
Whether it's I subscribe to Mind Valley, and they have a lot of those types of things, and so that kind of stuff. And so I'd print some of those off, and I would just go there, and I would just I like tea, so I would drink tea, and for 3 or 4 hours I would just go through those things and write. And it's shocking how much progress you can make even in 1 or 2 hours of just sitting there with a coffee and just pop in your headphones and listen to some instrumental music or something. Have your coffee and just be somewhere that's not in your house and where phone is off,
where all the other distractions are not readily available.
Yeah. So I'd never brought my computer, and I would have my phone, but I would shut it off when I was there. And like 2 or 3 hours you can just get through, and then I have all these handwritten notes, and then I kind of pull off what I needed from there into actual action items, and then I would kind of write the date, and then I would just file it. So I got a folder of all of that has all of these. That has all of these in there, which I look back on every now and then.
I love everything about that.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts?
I've met so many senior leaders and CEOs who have created habits like this that have really served them well, which is like carving out that space to reflect, because reflection is the only way we learn. It's truly like there's a researcher called Nick Petrie, and he talks about the three ways in which adults kind of shift in their when they learn something and when they shift. And the 3 things you need is heat, so some kind of challenge that's like putting pressure on you. You need colliding perspectives, which is the collective, and so hearing other perspectives that will jolt you out of kind of the stuckness
Autopilot.
of the heat. And then you need reflection. You need to be able to take that and let it embed and plant in yourself to shift. And I think that like the CEOs who have gotten good at this practice then are very good at bringing it to their organization, because reflection I think sometimes has this thing that it's an alone thing. You should do it by yourself, and I think there's many ways to do reflection, and that's where that's where the nesting practices come in, where it's this. I mean, we work with teams where it's time dedicated, so he does 2 hours by himself reviewing, really important. And then we have also worked with teams where we dedicate 2 hours a month, where this team, who is very busy, comes together, and the sole goal is to essentially nest. This is from a McKinsey article around nesting practices, and the goal is simply to just like encounter the moment, whatever is going on for the team, whatever, like it's like a collective breath to maybe if it's a big change, reflect on what has changed, grieve a little about what they're sad that's leaving.
Permission to grieve in itself is
Yes.
amazing. because we stuff it.
Yeah, we stuff it and we don't talk about it, and then people feel sad. And sometimes, like, it's not about solving anything; it's about creating that space for people just to talk about it. And you know, we all know what it's like. Sometimes, like, we have like sticky problems that don't actually have solutions, but just talking about it makes you feel better about it. It's the same thing. And so that's what these practices are like. And so teams that reflect together and create this space to just have a moment of going, like, look backs is an example of reflection that like are more kind of workplace-ish. Just creating the space. And I think sometimes leaders are resistant because they're like, well, yeah, but if we have this meeting in and then we don't have anything to talk about, first of all, you're always going to have something to talk about. Yeah. And you use it to build equity. But if you don't, you cancel it and everybody has their time back. But I would suggest not canceling it, like really having that space to do.
When I use the word right out of the gate that I love, it's a habit.
Yeah, it's a habit, a practice. Yeah.
Which means somewhere there was a choice, and sometimes it just became like, I can't imagine not doing this.
Yes.
But kind of pushing through those doing something new like that, even if it can feel scary.
Yes. Yeah.
Sometimes going with your own thoughts is scary.
I know. What are some of your practices? Because I know you are a very reflective person.
Well, podcasting.
Yes.
Because I put myself in an environment I'm a co-creator. I like co-creating with my thoughts. I like co-creating everything in my life. And one-on-ones, I'm involved and I get invited to a lot of groups where 10 people will sit around. My preference is still one-on-one. Yeah, this is what brought you and I here today. You and I go for coffee 2-3 hours and we talk about life and stuff and everything. For me, that is so, so powerful. And as you know, something I've shared and many people know me, I recently bought a rural property. And over the last kind of 5 years, I've got back to spending time in nature. Because I believe nature is relaxing, not because there's nothing going on, but because there's so much going on. It's just on the right frequency. And spending time in the woods, I have an emotional support tractor that I spend a lot of time with. So the other day, I have a very long driveway. So I spent like 4 hours in the tractor with my dog working on the driveway. And what I love, and for me, when there's something that I can do that I have to pay attention to, but it doesn't pull up all my time, like it's using 30% of my resources to do this thing, to grade the driveway. The other 70% works on this and thinks about ideas and passes and, oh, wow. Yeah, maybe I could look at that differently. So I've been purposely putting a lot more in that time. For me, if there's enough of an action in it that fills up a little bit of my bandwidth, like going for a walk in the woods, takes 20-30% of my energy. The other 70%, just sitting there staring at the wall, works for me. But if I'm physically moving or doing something, it works way better. And I've learned that over the last probably 5 years.
Yes, yeah. There is lots of research around this movement of your body and how that can really help
it's a make or break.
With memory.
If you put handcuffs on me, I can't speak.
Yeah, there you go. You can't.
I grew up in Montreal. I have to lock my hands.
It's true. I'm the same
Different
way.
but similar.
Yes, and also like what I hear you say about the in the tractor doing the thing is you're in kind of this flow state, and it's a way for you to disconnect and rest in your brain to kind of make the connections it couldn't make when it was focused on other maybe
and it's
challenges.
funny because when I was a kid, I grew up on a farm. This is filler, so I apologize. I grew up on a farm and I spent tons of time just working in the tractor.
Yeah.
It's so funny come all the way back there, but now with a busier brain, with more things and more awareness and more maturity. And my wife's always like, how do you know songs so well? How do you know this song and artist? I'm like, because when I worked in the tractor, I just listened to the radio for like 12 hours at a time on this farm kid life. But now I use it in a very different way. So the fact it's even come back around, I find endlessly hilarious.
Yeah, these like soundtracks to life. And
it's so funny. Now I'm and I saw a joke on Instagram the other day. It's like, oh, my husband has an emotional support tractor. I'm like, I think I have that.
Yes, you do. Well, there's so as
and I come back, and Monday when I hit the office,
Yeah.
I'm fresh. I feel relaxed. 48 hours there is like being gone for 2 weeks for me. So it's created a balance where both have gotten better because of each other.
Well, so research would support that. I'd mentioned Nick Petrie before, and he also posts a lot of his research on LinkedIn, which is really great. But some of the work he's looking at is around leaders who are burning out and experiencing overwhelm. And what he's finding in his data as they're talking to leaders is the ones who have really sustained high performance have something that allows them, which they've sort of coined as this like other world. So it's a way in which they flip into another world that allows them to completely disconnect from work and creates a flow state for them. So this one leader was saying, I think they were in a tech company. It was very intense. Most people would only last about 3 years. This leader had been there for 12. And they had said, well, what do you do? Like, how do you manage? And he said, well, I took up tango dancing. And I do that 3 to 4 times a week. And when I'm doing that,
I'm 100% present.
I'm 100% in that.
I heard a similar story, but
Yeah.
it was clarinet playing.
Yes.
That's right.
Can be
And
anything.
people were like, you do what? And it was like his company didn't believe because his work persona
Yes.
was not the clarinet guy. And that's what gave him the balance.
Yeah. It's about
Other
the
world.
Worlds.
Oh, I
Very
love it.
cool.
Other world
Yeah, so
concept.
Nick
Yes, I'm
Petrie.
living it right now. And I've putting a name to it makes it more fun, but
Yeah.
the proof is in the reality for me.
One thing too, but like before, like with Iggy, is
Yeah.
that I think so. Leaders are leaders who have built in this reflection practice or habit often benefit a lot from it. Sometimes they'll bring it to their teams and do it with their teams.
Mm-hmm.
And I think sometimes where the gap is that, and Iggy talks about it in your conversation around how he then encouraged someone he was mentoring to
right.
try it. And I think this is where senior leaders have come to this point where they've learned that this habit is valuable to them, but the operational leaders have not accessed that yet.
Modeling the behavior.
Yes,
Yeah.
and it's modeling it, and also it might even be forcing it until it becomes a habit. So creating time.
I think he talks about exactly that story. This
Yeah.
gentleman just couldn't take the time.
Yeah.
Started doing the Starbucks walk, and it changed his whole perspective on,
Yes,
on work.
exactly. And
Absolutely.
so
yeah, he
there's-
really gets into it in his episode.
Yeah, so permission is important, and even sometimes it's scheduling the meeting. And let's say it's a one-on-one you have with the person, and if you have to cancel, you say to them, I want you to watch or read this article, even though I can't be here with this meeting. So something to get people in the habit
you're
once
steering.
they do.
You're steering.
Yeah, it's good.
Lovely. All right, let's a couple more.
And I blamed the board. I blamed the new CEO at the time, and was really upset about it. But I realized that that's just a part of the process. And in order for me to understand and learn what it's like to go through an acquisition, these are the things I'm going to have to go through so I can learn. And so I'm happy and confident that I stayed curious about it.
Yes, touche.
You know,
Touche.
but
Because the
it was
process is
hurtful.
happening, so I can take from it, or I
Yeah.
can feel beat up by it.
Yeah.
I can choose to learn.
And that's what I did. Like, and it took 3-4 months for me to really sit there and go, I could choose to learn, or I could choose to really hate this. And I chose to learn from it. And it was, like a big weight off my shoulders. And to this day, when I'm talking to some of the employees that are ex-employees now, I kind of make sure I'm telling them that. Like, just understand this is part of the process. I knew that we were scaling into something that was going to eventually sell one day. And just know that you were a part of the story of that to there. So be proud of that,
As a leader, as a human being, over the years, have you gotten better at putting yourself in the other person's shoes?
Yeah.
Sometimes when we're younger, I wasn't that good at that.
No.
And I'm not saying I'm awesome at it, but I'm better at it than I used to be. And I'm hearing you talk. There was a lot of like, well, if I look at it from this side, I can learn. If I look at it from this side, I'm going to be pissed off.
Yeah.
So I got to choose. That flexibility is not always easy to do,
It's
especially in the
not
moment.
easy. You have to dig hard within. And I've read
it
a lot.
chafes, it chafes. It chafes.
I've read a lot of like self-help books. I've been doing a lot of like, digging in deep to get through a lot of the, I'd say, trauma.
Oh, what a drop. What a
Yes.
drop. And I know your one of your recent passions is informed around trauma.
Yes, yeah, it's like trauma.
So not to get caught on that, but
Leadership and
unpack that
growth.
one for me. I love Bobbie. She makes me smile all the time.
I have so much empathy because I think leaders are sometimes in these positions where we create these relationships, right? We want to build connection with our teams. We create these relationships that are trusting with the people on our teams. And then at the same time, we also sometimes have to juggle very difficult decisions that we know are going to impact.
It's not personal, it's just business.
Yeah, and it's so
That's not-
hard.
that's never
because-
true.
No, and like that's the
never
thing,
true.
right? Is like it's trying to find like the lines are blurred. People have tried to separate it so it doesn't feel so hard, and it's hard. And I think that there isn't a right way to do it, and I love that she kind of viewed it as a learning moment and had the opportunity afterwards to talk to people about how it was a learning moment for her and hopefully hear their experience too.
What's your recommend for leaders, like catching it in the moment? Because everything's easy. Like it's, when you're sitting in the easy chair going, well, if I was on the field, I would have done this. Versus her like being in it 3-4 months of like being like, I can be the victim or I can choose to learn. And that comes in waves sometimes. And like when you're
Yes.
least ready for it as a leader, it can catch you out of left field. And then you're
Yeah.
back on your heels or on your, when do you know you're in trouble? It's like when I was lying on the ground kind of thing.
Yeah.
And those moments happen for leaders all the time. And is that a symptom of, like we just wound it up so tight that one day it just kind of pops, which is the way she kind of talks about it. Even though it was intentional, it still sounded like a big moment.
Yeah,
It was
yeah.
It was a big moment.
I mean, I think leaders need to have people in their life who can support them in those. Like you cannot do that alone.
Yeah.
And so if it's, sometimes board of directors are positioned as that, support every once in a while for leaders, but that's just not enough.
But there's conflicting agendas there too, right?
Always.
Like that's tough.
Exactly.
That's messy.
Yes. And so having these
I've got
other
your back, but
people-
am I going to get my return on my investment?
Right.
Like that's tough. Like
Yeah,
I'm talking out of
exactly.
both sides
Yeah.
of my wallet.
Yeah. And I mean, the both sides thing comes up even in leadership around, like we often talk with leaders about polarities and how do you navigate like something like accountability and care. Right.
Ooh,
so
okay.
And a polarity is like two interdependent things that tend to feel like they're separate, but actually can coexist.
Okay.
And the goal is that there isn't a right middle. There isn't a right amount of care and a right amount of accountability. That assumes that life is static, right? And so
It's not served up that neatly.
yeah, exactly.
neatly.
And the thing is if you hold people accountable, there's benefits to that, but there's also some unintended consequences that come up
Yeah.
with holding people accountable. Like, people might then start to feel like you hold someone accountable, they feel they can achieve things, right? But then there's a point where you hold them too accountable and they might feel like you are cold and evil, and they might feel like they're being micromanaged, right? And so then what we sometimes see is leaders go, oh, okay, I need to stop being a cold jerk and I should be more caring. And so they go all the way over to the other pole and they reap the benefits at first, right? You're more caring, you build some trust, you get to know the
Sometimes
person.
it feels nicer.
Yes. And but maybe because they trust you, they do things for you, they talk to you, they confide in you. And then suddenly though, if you're too much on there, it drops into that unintended consequence of like, well, now they're oversharing, or I feel bad because I know what's going on in their life. And now I really can't ask them to get that thing in by the deadline. And so what happens is we whiplash, and it's so hard to find it. And so what we always tell leaders is now what you have to do is recognize that these two things might feel like poles, and then flow between them actively. So it's very fluid. And so, yes, you build connection, and it can be in the same sentence.
It's just tough because we strive for this black and white.
Yes, we do, right? What's the right way to do it?
Binary ones and zeros.
Yeah. And so I think the hack, if there's one for me, is always like, how can I infuse the other pole into this conversation? So let's say I'm having a caring conversation with somebody because, maybe they've just come back from a really, they lost their pet, let's say, and they're sad and they come in and, I'm connecting in with them. But I also know we have a deliverable at the end of the week.
That's a very real situation.
Yes. And so first it's starting with care. And then I have to think like, okay, but how can I introduce some accountability into this? And it might be that this person is deeply emotional, and it's going to be the whole hour of our meeting, like 55 minutes will be them just needing to get out the emotion. But then I'll make sure to say, so, I want to return to this conversation. Right, we're at time. Right, I want to return to this conversation, and I know we have a big deliverable at the end of the week, and I want us to talk about it so that I can make sure.
Well, I like
can
you being comfortable enough to be clear and be specific, because if you feel uncomfortable about even bringing it up, it's going to come off as
right.
Right.
Yeah. So I think there's always these, and sometimes you can move through care and go to accountability right away. So it's this idea that we can hold two things that feel opposite at once, and how do we?
Well, it starts by even being aware of them.
Yes. Yeah.
Are you seeing more leaders? And what I really liked so much about what Bobbie said here, but like I'm doing the work, I'm feeling uncomfortable, I'm getting in, I'm reading the books. Are you seeing more leaders diving a bit deeper on self and like, hey, where did that trigger come from? Why did I show up that way? Is that becoming more, or is it just happen to be more in the people that I'm talking to recently? Because I do it a lot. Deep dive, don't like this, where it came up for. I run into other people. A good buddy of mine, and he's like, oh, I've just never even thought about it. Like, I've never taken that, like, where did that come from?
Yeah.
What's my belief that's showing up here that I don't even realize why I have that belief?
Yes.
I'm seeing it, but then every once in a while I have conversations with people that are like, what do you mean talking about your beliefs? And what do you mean choosing how you feel? And I'm like, what do you mean not choosing how you feel?
Yes. Interesting. I'm not sure.
Okay.
I think I'm often in when I think about programming with leaders, when we encounter leaders who are very new to the job or new to leadership, that work comes in very early on of like, what are your values? What kind of leader do you want to be?
Even being able to say them out loud.
Yes. And so then they've never done that work, right? And then I get leaders who are more further along in their journey, more mature, and they have had exposure to doing that type of work.
Okay. Back to learning how to be a leader.
Yes, exactly. And then they're really going deeper. But I do think there's probably more emphasis on, like, you always get the words of the day. So like beliefs and complexity is now all these words of the day.
What's trending?
So,
Okay.
yeah.
It's a moving target.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
All right. Well, let's continue. We got a couple more. 2 more left. I had a politician tell me once, she said, Tyler, when your constituency starts getting annoyed, that's when you know they're finally hearing you. I took a lot away from that because as a leader, there is that, I keep towing the line. How do you then coach and support a leader, or what words of inspiration or wisdom or learned lessons you can give to people listening right now? They're going, I really want to do this, but the world sucks me in. My team doesn't, is too busy to have time for this. How do you be that champion, especially in the early days of creating a culture like this?
Well, in our method, it's around helping leaders build their operating system. Most leaders have an expert operating system. I'm an expert in my field.
Yeah.
You said it, processes, tactics. But what is your leader operating system? And how do we get you into the cycle of experimentation? And the model that we use, borrowed from high performance sport, is really, it's AIER. And A is awareness. The awareness is the entry
What's going
point
on?
to
What's going on?
transformation.
Yeah.
So every conversation, a universal foot sweep that shocks us and wakes us up to a different way, everything big and small is an opportunity to challenge our awareness of ourselves, our business, our situation. And here's the gift whenever that happens. We get to ask ourselves, take us to I, intention. How do I want to engage with this situation? What do I want the result to be? Where we get intentional about, here's the situation, here's how I want to engage with it. And then based on that intention, which is really a hypothesis, you move to E. What's the experiment that's going to test this intention? That if it works, what do I want it to be? And so we identify the experiment, the exercise, whether it's I need to have a difficult conversation with Tyler to course correct this behavior or this situation. So then I get intentional about what I want that to look like. And then I go do it. And then I come back. And that's the R, the reflection piece. This is like watching game film as an athlete. What worked? What didn't? What's next? Which then becomes this never-ending cycle that brings you back to A, awareness. What new awareness do I have as a result of this action I took with Tyler?
So good.
I feel like that one summed up so much of what we've been talking about the last couple episodes.
Yes.
My team, and with some of your guidance, we grouped these together in a way, but the consistency of the theming between the different leaders, all using their own words, but we're landing on such similar common ground.
Yes. Yeah, there's like some good coherence here around like how this all comes together and this
From very different leaders from very different worlds, which is
Yeah.
what I love. It might start to be true.
Yes. Well, and I mean, I guess what I hope for is, when my kids are old enough to be leaders in their organizations, like hopefully we're not talking about expertise anymore. Hopefully we have,
Interesting.
shifted to the way we work. Like I'm hoping this is a belief for our time that we can move through and past and adopt some of these.
And people will look back and go, oh my God, these people in the 2026s, they were ridiculous.
I know, like they didn't start meetings with a meditation, which is like actually very common around the world in so many places outside of North America.
Yep.
So I do
That's
think
a great,
yes.
that's a great, where people are like, well, what?
What? Yeah. Like, so I always say that I really hope
The version
that,
we have is the version we just have right now.
Yeah, we
it's
have-
going to be
exactly.
different. It's going to
Yeah.
go away.
It'll be-
and
what
most
I
of it
hope-
will look ridiculous in probably, maybe next week.
Yeah. Well, I want it to be like how smoking on airplanes feels to us. Like, it's so, we know it existed.
Throwing
but it's
garbage out your
so-
window while you're driving.
Yeah. It's so weird.
There's
yeah,
a
those
time where
things.
we had to teach people to stop doing that.
Yeah. And teach people to put seatbelts on, right? Like there's so many, so I would
I'm old
love
enough that I
for,
remember that, so shut up.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, even
My
smoking
mom,
on
put your
airplanes,
seatbelt on.
there's-
It's the rules now. And I was, this is ridiculous. Why am I putting a seatbelt on?
Yeah, that's true. So I hope there's things. in
But
our
things we're
workplace.
growing into and things we're growing out of.
Yes.
And there's a lot of resonance here
Yeah.
of different perspectives.
Yeah, and I mean, so there are two things that what he talks about reminds me of is the experimenting, which I think you and I both love.
We do.
This idea,
We do.
and I took for granted, and maybe it's because of my academic explorations as well, that people understood what it meant to experiment in their daily lives, and I've come to
Okay,
learn.
so you even used it quite
yes,
quite
like
flippantly.
not like it's easy. This should be easy.
Well,
And
awareness
what
and intention are pretty clear, but yeah, unpack experiment for us,
Yeah,
because you're
well-
right. That one is a bit of a I kind of
do
know
it?
what you mean, but what do you mean?
Yes, and I think even this idea of like, I have to have a hypothesis, and I actually would make it simpler than that, even, and that it's, and I love Lara Murphy. She has a great TED talk called Tiny Experiments, and has written a book, and essentially it's this idea that the goal of an experiment is to learn. That is it. It's not.
Period.
That's it. And so if you already know what you're planning will happen, it's not an experiment, right? Because you already know the answer. Yeah. So if the goal is not learning, it's not an experiment. So we want to learn. And then what Laura Ann talks about is she'll say, well, you say, I'm going to do this for X amount of time. I'm going to do X for X amount of time. Okay. So you make it very time bound. And the goal is that once you hit the timing, then you figure out if you are going to keep it, are you going to pivot it a little bit, or maybe you're going to pause it. And so, then you have, but it's only and
then you reflect. And then you reflect.
And then you reflect, exactly.
Yeah,
so you always need to have that reflection to come in. But I think, and so when we've worked with leaders to say, what's the tiny experiment based on what we've just talked about today? Sometimes these experiments are so big that they come up with, right? It's like, I'm going to write a book.
If I had more time, I'd make the experiment more simple. Yeah,
right, exactly.
We love to overcomplicate in business.
Yeah, we do. And so it's
guilty of it.
It's so, and I mean, I get it. Everyone has best intentions to do the best they can, or they have these big ideas. And we had one leader who wanted to write a newsletter for their staff, and it was a big addition to everything else this leader had on their plate. And so the tiny experiment, though, is not write a newsletter every week. It's, make a note of the things that you're proud of this week, or make a note of the things that was a focus this week, and just write those for the next 5 weeks.
Isn't that the best formula to create a good habit as well?
Yes.
Like if we're going to get into atomic habits or any of those, like that is the formulation of a good practice.
Right. Yeah.
AKA a habit.
Yeah. And it might be, and then at the end of the experiment, you look back, you say, actually, I loved that habit of writing, but I'm going to write something different. And then you try something different. And so it's exactly.
Well, someone in your team sees it, they offer to help because they were excited by it. Like all the things that like, we could sit here all day. We're going to know something a week from now that we didn't know today.
Yeah.
Because stuff happened.
Yeah. So tiny experiments are good. We had another team, one of their tiny experiments.
I'm all about it.
Was to get rid of one priority a week. And so and it was really hard for them. And what they realized after 2 weeks of trying to do this was that they weren't aligned on what was most important. So one person was trying to get rid of a priority that someone else thought was very important. It was the clarity in the thing. Right? And so it just...
Well, it's the Eisenhower matrix. Yes. It's the urgent versus important, and writing out
exactly.
on it. I have a breakfast group where we call and we write stuff down.
Oh, yeah?
And if we can't really like so what it to the other person, they take it and literally throw it away.
Oh.
On your behalf. They're like, well, your so what literally was weak.
Yeah.
So clearly this is not important. So out.
That's really good. Yeah, having other people. So I mean, you
and
can do
again, trusted peers and that type of thing.
Yeah, you can do it as a team.
So I need to make my experiments smaller. Is what I'm personally taking away.
Tiny, and you can do it as a team. Do it as a team, and I think that's where we really unlock some cool advantages when they start to do it as a team. The other thing I want to pull on is this idea of intention. I think that's so important because sometimes we tend to focus on solving or the outcome, like to solve something, as opposed to thinking through like what are we really intending to do here, and the flip of it is like because if we spend so much time trying to solution it, then it's then we sometimes miss cool opportunities.
When you lose the plot.
Yeah, you totally lose the plot. Yeah, so sitting.
And I appreciate how again. Jayson is great with his frameworks.
Yes.
But taking time and understanding what each one of those things mean, it's funny, our audience is watching us, but we keep looking up. So we have a great screen in the studio here where we're looking. So on the one we just went through, and we'll put it in the show notes. But the, AIER, awareness, intention, experiment, reflection. Yeah. Also taking a few minutes to just understand what each one of those words means to you.
Yes. And I think you can practice them each in their own right. Doesn't have to be in the flow of I think sometimes we worry that we have to follow certain steps. And you know what? If you just got really good at awareness and intention and experimenting and reflecting.
The engineers, the accountants, everyone who's listening just got really, they're like, finally you gave me a framework. You two conceptual talkers.
Yes.
I want a framework I can follow. All right.
That's good.
I think we got one more we're going to get into here. What a fabulous conversation. I heard someone say this the other day, and I loved it. They were a leadership coach, and they actually go on this long walk when they onboard a new client, a new coaching client. And they actually, part of their walk, there's a cemetery. And when they get to the cemetery, I said, what part of your old leadership has to die for the new leader you want to be to grow? So we're not in a graveyard. We're not in a graveyard, but I thought the visualization was powerful. So for you, because you're right in it right now, and you kind of touched on it, what part of maybe COO Jen has to pass away respectfully? We'll have a nice funeral and everything. We'll have a party after. For the new CEO Jen to come alive.
Yeah, I think kind of what I just said, right, is getting out of the weeds and getting out of people's business. As far as I'll see something and my instinct would be if I see some email come in that could be a new potential event client, for example, and I'm like, oh my God, Meghan, this is a white glove. And it's like, no, she already knows that. Like, I don't need to keep doing this. Right. And so it's like, and I'm doing it because I'm excited, not because I'm like, making sure it gets done. Like it
doesn't always get perceived that way by the people that you do it to.
Well, I always apologize.
I'm speaking again, personal experience. Oh, you didn't find my meddling helpful?
Yeah. But I always apologize, right? Like it's like I know you know that. And so then I'm like, okay, go like pull out of those.
So what part of pre-PhD Meghan has to die for new PhD Meghan to excel with her PhD in her new business, which is Pebble?
Oh, well, this, for me, it's the moving from learner mode to now teacher, or like sharing of the wisdom mode, right? Like I kind of get stuck in my own, like I was, me and my computer and my research, right? And then you take it out to the world. I'm sure like what it was like with the book, right? You take it out to the world.
Those are two very different parts of the journey.
Yeah, people have a relationship with it it was just you and it for a long time. And then now I think that would be the moving, that shift. Yeah.
How critical is that as a concept, as a theory, for leaders, especially as they move up in their organizations, to let go of what made them successful here won't make them successful there? And how hard is it?
So hard. Yeah, I don't know. Do you find it hard?
I find it super hard.
Yeah, it's so hard.
I just call this life, and I'm working on it all the time.
Yes.
And you ever hang out with friends from years ago, and then all of a sudden you're like, why am I acting like the person from 20 years ago? I don't want to be like, because it's just familiar and it works. And it shows up in my leadership all the time, especially. So let's turn up the stress a little bit.
Yeah.
Let's turn up the time pressure. Yeah. Let's turn up the consequences. And Command and Control Tyler likes to show up.
Yes.
But to be curious, Command and Control Tyler had to take a permanent vacation.
Yes.
But under stress, he is on deck, ready to go.
Yeah.
So I wrestle with this all the time.
Yeah.
What did you have to give up to make room for X?
Yeah.
So putting it into that concept of like, okay, we're in the cemetery. What part are we leaving here?
Yes.
I love that. Like, it's visceral.
Yeah. And I think, Command and Control Tyler served a very good purpose for a very long time for other things.
Thank
and
you.
now you're in kind of a new space. And so I do.
He likes compliments as well.
Yes.
Command and Control Tyler always does.
I have part of Meghan who
But
likes that too. And so I think, and if we kind of think about the journey we've been on, it's like this expertise, it's imagining who do I want to be next, right? If I'm not the expert.
You sum up all to get. I love this is our last one.
Yes.
Because it is the culmination of like everyone was letting go of something while adapting to something new.
Yeah.
And being deliberate about it, what did I give up versus what are you going to give up?
Yes.
I think this also changes the dynamic.
Yeah.
Intention.
Yes, it's so good. And then you move into this place, well, then how do I step into a space where I can have the collective and the co-creation of all these other ways in which we come to something new. And then it's this constant reflecting. And so it's this bit of a loop. It's like, okay, then now that I am aware of all these other things, what's next? And then you just keep kind of doing the circle, I think, of which is growing, which is why there is no peak to leadership.
That's the payoff, right?
Yes.
You are now be able to have a greater impact in the world around you. Your ideas and your capability for ideas got bigger and better because you're bringing in all these resources around you. It's not what's one mind, it's a joint mind.
Yeah.
Like, what is the ultimate payoff of this whole journey? It's you get to feel like you're growing constantly. And for me, that's my payoff.
Yes.
Because if I don't feel like things are moving forward, I will find a way to make sure they do. And I'll go
Yes.
learn and I'll make myself uncomfortable. But there is an unlock of like, I want to give up the way I used to be. I want to give up being the expert as my identity. I need to give up. I don't have time. I'm busy. Don't you know how busy I am? I can't reflect.
Yes.
Giving up all those old stories, the payoff actually comes quicker than I think most people realize.
Oh, so true.
It's not years.
No. And
It's sometimes the next day.
Yes. Well, and you open up all these different like fields of
Yes.
opportunity and feedback and ideas. It's
The
so
aperture
cool.
gets bigger.
Yeah. So I'd be curious to know, because something that really bugs me is I've seen this around lately is a picture. It's often at like leadership sessions, which I'm
Okay,
not
I got
keen
it.
about, not
Yep.
ones that I'm doing, but others. And so it's a picture of a mountain peak, and it's like some men in suits wearing briefcases, like climbing up the mountain. And the positioning.
think you already know how I feel about this image.
Yeah, the conclusion you're supposed to make is that the goal is to get to the summit and be there forever and ever and ever. And so I'd be curious to know, like, what metaphor would you, or what visual, what is something that you think about in terms of like how we would approach this journey in leadership?
Well, the original cover for this was suggested to be the mountain on the mountaintop, and I've rejected it violently because I was like, no.
Yeah.
I don't know if I would say that my vision for this is a rutabaga. That was more to make you curious and be
Yes.
a bit nutty and to stand out. So what would be the visual for me? It's almost it's a sci-fi image. You're standing on a kind of like a plateau on some weird planet somewhere. I've had this vision like in like deep meditation or like getting a massage, and it keeps coming back to it. And it's almost like a Marvel movie, but it's just the expanse of the universe. And it's like, it's intrigue. You're separate from it, but yet you're part of it. And the possibilities are endless. And there's so much more going on than what you realized, what I realized before. And I've had this reoccurring vision, just getting a massage. And all of a sudden you're at Brian is somewhere and you come out of it, you're like, where was I?
Yes.
Like, what was going on? So I have no idea what it's about. I don't need to read into it. It's not spirituality. It's not spirituality. But it was just such an expanse of so much potential. But you're not separate from it, you're actually part of it. And that's the image that comes up for me, like from my heart, when you ask that question, no filter,
Yeah.
does that sound weird? Sure, I don't care. It's inspiring. And I've
Yeah.
chosen, and it's come up I've seen it more than once.
Cool.
So I'm like, okay, but I'm not separate from it, I'm part of it.
Yeah.
Which then it isn't, I'm not doing it alone, because none of us are alone. That's a ridiculous concept.
Yes.
That's very, like, what? We're not. Like, we're part of it.
Yeah.
So that's the vision that comes from me.
Yeah.
Not like the mountaintop with the brief. That's ridiculous. No.
Yes.
Like, please
The
can we put a bullet
Yeah.
in that?
Yes, I would like to.
Because what do you do when you get to what's the joke?
you don't just
Oh my God,
say.
there's a fall summit.
Yeah.
There's 3 more summits.
Yeah.
But that's okay.
Yeah.
That's part of the experience
That's
for me.
the journey.
So it's
Yeah.
the plateau of expanse, not the straight up climb for me.
Yeah.
That's my
Well,
visual.
And like, as you were talking about,
I got way deep on that question.
I love it, because then I was imagining you in your tractor and like in nature, right? And
Nature.
you just think
Oh,
about
I'm
how
going there
nature,
this afternoon. I can't wait.
The cycle of it all, right? And how we're all just kind of part of this world. So for me, the metaphor is a river journey. It's like constantly flowing. Your destination will continue to change as you reach one. What's the next? And sometimes you're
And like
pulling
being
over.
on a river, you're like, well, what's around the next bend?
Yes,
You're
yeah.
like, oh, what's it going to be? And there's
Yeah,
always a
and
little bit of
sometimes you know
like,
what it is. Sometimes you don't, right?
sometimes it's rapids.
Yes, yeah. And
Sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's calm water.
yeah, and I think, and
I love
sometimes
it.
you're boating with others, and sometimes you're in a moment of pause with like on the side, and so I think, and sometimes it's shallow and deep. So I love that. My business partner Alicia loves the idea of like it's just sort of a mountain range, and
Yeah.
so it's like the whole, and
More
so there is
foothills, less
ups
Rockies.
and downs, ups and downs, and maybe some Rockies sometimes too. But you're
Fair
just,
enough.
The
That's fair.
idea is that is like it's a long game, a long journey, and how are you kind of seeing it that way versus like I'm trying to hit some
And something, since we're here and we're having this type of conversation, and if you're listening with us, you've stuck around. So kudos to you. I've realized this even with the land. I own this land, but it's not my land. I'm just a steward.
Yeah.
When you talk about leaving trace and leaving legacy,
Yes.
what's legacy? That path, that animal path that I found was there hundreds of years before I got there.
Yes.
And it will be there after me. If you think about the people that you interact with in your leadership, how's it any different?
No,
We're all gonna come and go. We're all gonna
Yes.
interact. But do you leave a trace? Do you leave a legacy? Did you have a positive impact?
Yeah.
Were you a steward to help that person be a better version of themselves at that time? That changes everything. Takes the pressure off, but also is more rewarding at the same time. It's so
so
freeing.
well said. I love it.
Thank you, Meghan, for an amazing conversation.
Thank you. This was so much fun.
Loved it.
Okay.